about the holidays that are coming up for Christmas. I want to let the people work during these holidays. Our firefighters, our policemen, hospitals, but especially the people in the military. They serve this country 24/7. They don't get a holiday like most of us do. So I would like for everybody for a moment to just reflect on the virtues that we have, how we're protected by the people of this country, and the goodwill that we show towards each other. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. This morning, there being no amendments to the agenda, I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second. Got it. All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. 5-0. Motion carries. Motion we need for the minutes from our December the 5th meeting. That's on our pages 1 through 3. We've had our packets for a few days. I need a motion and a second if there's no changes to the minutes.
Should approve.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0, motion carries.
Excuse me,
Wait a
Mr.
minute.
Chairman, that would be 4-0. I was not in attendance and cannot vote.
4-0, because he was not.
Make that correction, so we'll have a 4-0 vote. Thank you. Public comments. If there's any citizens that would like to say, you're encouraged to come forward right now for a 3-minute statement. Seeing none, I'll close public comments. Presentation to the board. The first item is Scott Wickman, RFC, on our audit presentation.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Morning.
Again, my name is Scott Wickham, and I'm partner in charge of the county's audit. This was our second year working with you all. I just passed out a little handout presentation to go over. I'm going to start with going through some highlights of the actual audit report itself. Hopefully you've had a little bit of time to look through it, and if not, it's very detailed. And my contact is also on the front of this handout if you have questions later on another point. So, but starting with the audit report itself, on page 2 is the independent auditor's report. And this is the opinion on the financial statements. This talks about the numbers that are in the financial statements. And you all received an unmodified, clean, good opinion. Now, if you compare this year's opinion to last year's opinion, it looks a lot different. One of the standards required us to reorganize the opinion, but it still is a good, clean, unmodified opinion. Years ago, it used to be if you had 3 paragraphs, that was a clean opinion, and 4 was not a good opinion. Now there's a lot of paragraphs, so I just want to point out this is a good, clean, unmodified opinion, which means we feel the numbers presented here are materially accurate. It also has one of the paragraphs to talk about new standards. The county implemented GASB 87 for leases this year. That's been a lot of work coming as far as leases. The impact on the county was not super significant. The legwork to obtain all the leases and evaluate all the leases was a little bit more significant. But the end result is that we've adopted this standard and you are in compliance with the requirements there. As I mentioned, this report is very detailed. April and the group have done a good job writing the management discussion and analysis, which starts on page 6 of the audit report. It has some good comparative data and some high-level summary information. So If you're only going to read part of it, I think that's a good part to read. Also, if you're not super familiar with governmental financial statements, there's full accrual portions of it, which means it includes all types of activity, and modified accrual basis. So Exhibit 1 on page 15 is your statement of net position, which shows everything. So that is all of your liabilities less all of all your assets less all your liabilities for net position, or essentially the net worth. And so this is full accrual looking out long term. On that basis of accounting, the county has about $14.5 million of net worth. Page 17, Exhibit 3, is a modified accrual basis of accounting. And this is a little bit more shorter-term view. So this is your cash plus short-term receivables less short-term payables. So a little bit more what you're used to budgeting based on. So that's the Exhibit 3 fund balance. And at the end of the year, you all had about $9 million of general fund balance, about 7.6 of that unassigned fund balance. So as I mentioned, there's a lot more detail throughout the report here, but I'm going to move towards the back of the report. Page 120, we have the gas report. This is the report on compliance with state requirements as well as government auditing standards. We have 3 items noted there. Similar to last year's report, working through some changes. The county's had a lot of turnover in the finance staff. April's first year was last year, I believe, and so I think she has a pretty good grip on the accounting process now. Hopefully she can keep her group in her office, and that will help get caught up on bank reconciliations and those sorts of things. So a lot going on for you all this year, very busy, and that's one item that got kind of behind. But I do see improvement on those things, and I hope that next year we will have those taken care of. The third report in here from us is the report on uniform guidance and state single audit implementation. That was a clean report, so there were no issues noted on that report. The final one is the state report, also a clean report, no items noted in that report as well. All right, now I'll move back to the handout a little bit more in line with that. And so there's a 5-year trend information revenue section there. And it's just really impressive. I've seen throughout a lot of localities, state sales tax went up quite a bit, and that helped a lot of localities improve from this year as well. But the growth in revenues has been good to see for you all. I know several years ago it was quite concerned about the financial position of the county, and now it's come up here and happy to say you all are in very good shape now, so that's much improved. The 5-year trend, second page, you can see the expenditures. And on a 5-year growth, the total operating expenditures have grown at 0.38%. That's just really impressive to manage expenses to that level, and might be challenging to do that with inflation where we are now. But for the last 5 years, you all have done a great job of maintaining expenses at the same level and not incurring much increase. And across the bottom, you have fund balance there. You can see that the significant growth to where you're not such a concern of being financially stable anymore. You're in a much better spot. You may hear $9 million of fund balance, and you're not necessarily sure what that means. If you move over a couple of pages to review of county reserves, colored pages there, and you've got fund balance of $9 million. You got your cash and investments of $8.2 million. And you totally spend $15.7 during the year, leaving an unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures of 48%. GFOA is a national organization, and they recommend having a minimum unassigned fund balance of 2 months. That's a very general rule of thumb from GFOA, and now you all exceed that. So that's a much better place to be. As I mentioned, that's a very general rule of thumb because some rural localities don't have the ability to generate revenue as some more urban localities. So that's part of it. Also thinking about when you have your tax collections come in. Could be if you have them come in June, you would want it to be higher than if you have them come in July, essentially, because right at the end of the year, if that makes sense. So the improvement there is very, very good to see. And I know that you all were on the list with North Carolina LGC, and it's good to see you all have come off of that and are very strong. In fact, just above the the median from them is 39% available fund balance, and you are at 44%, so just above the median there. So very strong position now, and good to see. As I mentioned briefly, there were three findings noted. Material proposed audit entries. It's just really challenging with all the new standards to keep up with all the requirements. So that is a common finding that we in the CDR books, and we might find something that was missed or accrual that wasn't recorded or those sorts of things. But there's just so many pieces to it that is a pretty common item. Lacking segregation of duties, continue to work on that with the turnover in the office. I'm seeing improvement, but we'll keep working with that, and hopefully some stability will help improve that as well. As I mentioned, the bank reconciliations, getting those caught up and on time, I think that directly relates to having some stability in that office as well. There were a few other minor recommendations that we issued a separate letter for, items that are not material to the report or best practice type of items. So nothing of too much concern there, but there was a few other ones issued, and we met and went over those as well. Last year, the LGC required a board response to any findings in the report, so I just want to remind you all that those are due within 60 days to LGC. Upcoming standards, this lease standard that required putting any lease, if you were leasing a building, that became a liability in your financial statements. Previously, it wasn't considered an operating lease, and that was just a disclosure item. Now it actually is recorded as a liability in your financial statements, similar to if you own a building and rent it to somebody. So that was the big change. The upcoming standards, conduit debt obligations and subscription-based IT arrangements and compensated absences, I don't see being a significant impact, but there is some description here in the handout for you as well. Overall, the process went really well. The staff did a great job of uploading files to us. I have access to see the software and run reports as needed. That's very helpful as well. And the biggest concern was the fund balance when we first started this process, and seeing you all in a much stronger light there is very good. So overall, a good audit. I see improvement on the process of getting there, and financially a much better spot. Any questions?
No questions. John, do you have any?
None.
Michelle? Any questions? I think the overall, report has to be one of the highlights over the last few years from where we started, I think, in 2020, when our fund balance was roughly 11.7, 11.8%. And now we're at 44%. But could you go through what, for the new board members, especially the restricted and unrestricted, what exactly does that mean?
Sure. So fund balance is all of your cash on hand less the payables you have. Some of that is a grant item. So you may have an item that is restricted to use for a certain purpose. So that would be some restrictions. And I can go look at yours here on Exhibit 3. You also have the stabilization by state statute restriction, which is a calculation given by the state for receivables that you don't have on hand, essentially, for the most part. You can't spend that because you don't have it on hand. So that's a big part of your restriction amount. 1.2 of that actually is related to that. A little bit other is related to other funds and grants that you have set aside, but the unassigned portion, essentially, or the available portion, a very similar calculation, a little bit different, but similar, gives you that 44%, which is a good number.
Thank you. And I think, as you mentioned, well, there was just a few recommendations.
Sure.
And they were very minor.
Yes.
It's more of an internal hiring. We need additional staff that's here constantly. We've had that turnover, but your audit findings were minimal.
Correct, yeah. So the ones in the report, the material ones, and we're working on getting those fixed. I know April has been putting a lot of work in on getting those fixed. And the other minor items, I had a phone call with Michael and April to go over those as well. So
April, do you have anything to add? You need to be smiling a little bit bigger, I think. I think it's amazing that from the turnaround that we've had, the big part of that goes to everybody that works for this government. Mr. Carter came in and under some really heavy clouds, and within a short period of time, he was able to convince, I think, all of our department heads to buy into his financial planning for the future. The board bought into it, and I think especially the finance officers and the finance office, they were very, very instrumental in bringing this to a 44% to fund balance. I can't brag on them enough. I know that it was a trying time for John, Michelle, and myself at going through that process with the state. But I would like to hear from the state something that we did I think a yeoman's job at getting this financial situation straightened out. And Mr. Carter, always look to you for some words of wisdom about our audit. What do you think?
I think we're on the right track. I don't want us to feel like that we're there and we can relax. I think we're on the right track. I think that we're continuing to make improvements in all processes. And, as we continue to do that, I think we can recognize some opportunities along the way now that we couldn't a couple of years ago. So I think we're in a good position. I think we're on the right track. We just need to stay the course, and I think we're fine.
I appreciate those words, and I was looking back through some of our past history on our fund balances, and I think maybe 8 or 10 years ago was the highest we'd ever had. That was at 28%, and now we're at 44%. But we still have to watch every penny that we spend and be sure that we spend it in the proper fashion. And I think with April and Michael at the helm, we're on that right track. Any other comments from the commissioners?
I agree, and part of that calculation is heavily relied on expenditures, which with inflation, you would expect to see a big increase there. So with the uncertainty in the general economy, you are in a good spot to withstand a lot of upcoming challenges there. So
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the good news.
yes, absolutely. Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Happy holidays.
You too, sir. Hey, April.
Morning.
Good morning.
I will first say thank you, and I didn't get to tell Scott, but he's been very helpful to me on things. The end of the year is kind of challenging. You have to put revenues back and expenditures back, and Scott has been a great help to me with assisting with that and help guiding me where we need to be on some of the things that I didn't have any knowledge on. So I really appreciate the relationship that we have with Robinson Farmer Cox and Scott. And unfortunately, he left before he heard all that. And thank you to all the department heads too. Like you said, it was a buy-in from everybody. We had to reduce expenditures and watch our P's and Q's. So I want to thank everybody. Your finance update this morning, I did hand out a report right before the meeting for all the commissioners. Year-to-date revenue, $11,419,684. Year-to-date expenditures, $8,767,000. $8,767,899, and our approved budget for the current fiscal year is $18,412,892. Year-to-date revenue represents 62% of our estimated revenue. I will remind everybody and point out to the new commissioners, a lot of our tax revenue comes in August with that 2% discount, so a lot of our revenue has come in for the year. Expenditures represents about 48% of our estimated budget for the year, and we're about 46% into the year. Bank balance as of this morning, $19,819,723.75. Bank balance a year ago, $13,655,055.44. And bank balance 2 years ago, $9,154,704. Our net financials so far this year, $2,651,785. And then I am included the audited fund balance for fiscal year '22, $9,067,926. Also have included 2 months prior reports, and that is our normal process for this report. I answer any questions about this report?
John, any questions? Michelle? Greg? Tammy? Michael, any comments? As usual, it's a great report.
I have a second page of the report too,
Yeah.
on sales tax. Sales tax, as of this fiscal year, we have collected on the local option sales tax, $463,979.76. I will point out that is just through October. This posting of sales tax stays about 6 weeks behind. It's collected, it's sent to the state, the Department of Revenue reconciles that, and then it's sent to the counties and cities, municipalities. At this time last year, we had collected $374,706.83, which was about 41% of the estimated revenue last year. So we are running about $90,000 ahead as compared to last year on the local option. Can I answer any questions about the sales tax?
Mr. Carter?
Just one comment, April. The quarter-cent sales tax that was voted in on the referendum should probably have some funds that went into this.
It does have some funds that go into this. Now, I don't know how broken down it is in the report that I received. And I also know that a lot of the retail establishments, they pay quarterly. So we really may not see some of this till the January report, till the February report, actually.
The reason I bring that up is it would probably be a good demonstration to be able to categorize those independently so that we can, we've had estimates, we've had discussions about how to use that funding, but to demonstrate that would probably.
Okay. And in the next report, I'll see if they do have it broke down, and I'll break that down for the board for the presentation. Any questions that I can answer?
Bill? Greg? Tammy? We're in good shape. Michael, any other comments? Hey, thank you.
Thank you. And
Up again.
Yeah, I do not have an HR report this morning. We don't have anybody retiring this month, so that's something that we started this past July, recognizing retirees, but we do not have anybody retiring this month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a facilities report with David Spicer.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Board. Excuse me. Thank you for the opportunity to come to give you a report this morning. Just a few things on this list, more to come. Administration building, we have got the carpet down in the lower level, which looks exceptionally well, I think. They did a good job in taking care of that. So all of our stuff downstairs in the lower level, most all of that is completed. We'll get into the dispatch center here shortly, but all of that, as far as we're concerned, the county's part, I think that's mostly completed as well. We do have a generator transfer switch now. We're still waiting on the generator. Hopefully it'll be here shortly after the first of the year. But out here on the sidewalk, if you want to look, that's the transfer switch. It weighs 1,600 pounds or 1,500 pounds, and that's to run the entire building. The lights that have been replaced, those in here that have been already replaced, as you noticed my report last month, we had some that were turning yellow in the middle. The contractor or the subcontractor that we have or supply house that has supplied these went to the manufacturer warranted those, so that was at no cost to the county. At the courthouse, we've had some problems with the heat, so we've fixed that. It was not at a minimal expense. That costed quite a bit, but the heat is going in the courtroom once again. So those things have been eliminated. We did have a problem with the fire alarm. It just happened at the same time. For some reason, the duct detector for the courtroom went bad, which cut the thermostat off. When the fire alarm goes off, the heating and air conditioning system shuts down. So that shut that down, and we had to have Johnson Controls come and take care of that. They have a lock on who is able to maintain and do that work for Simplex Grinnell. So it's transfer facility. We do have a contract that has been presented to us for that temporary tipping floor. So hopefully we're going to get that underway here real shortly and have that taken care of, and then we can move on to the next project. With our recycling, commingle, we didn't have any loads of commingle this time. We had 5.01 tons of cardboard this time. We did not have any loads of scrap metal. We've been sort of short-handed. We've got about 3 or 4 loads of stuff that we've got to get taken down. We did have a little problem with our truck, so that's been fixed. The windshield wipers wouldn't work. So we've had that, all that's been taken care of and eliminated now. I will make mention of the Carton Council grant. I'm going to hopefully get that completed this week. That's a $2,000 grant that has no matching, doesn't require any matching funds, and that $2,000 we can use any way that we deem necessary. However, the carton grant itself, we want to remind the public about the recycling, and especially the cartons. And cartons, what I'm talking about is paper cartons that are wax coated. That chicken broth and beef broth and orange juice and milk and all kinds of those things come in those cartons, and those are paper cartons and not cardboard. So they do go in the commingle recycling. So we need to make sure that the public is aware that we do take those, and we're happy to do so. So then animal control, as of today from last board meeting, we've had 6 dogs and livestock, 7 wellness checks, 9 dogs and or cats picked up, 6 running at large, 4 attacks, and this was animal on animal. It's not human. We had no bites this time. We set 14 traps, which had a total of 96 hours, 46 calls, and 411 miles that we traveled this past month. So still busy. Under 100 hours this time, but still busy. But at this time, I'll entertain any questions that you might have.
John, Bill, Rick,
How much do we go in the hole by recycling? How much does it cost in the county?
Well, right now, we started out in 2020 with that, 2021 really. We paid for the first 2 loads that we took. So we bought our own truck, and so right now, we've taken a dozen loads, and we haven't received a bill for any of those. So right now, all it's costing us is fuel and time to take it down there. However, each ton that we recycle is a ton that we do not have to pay for that goes in the landfill. We pay for every ton that leaves on the trailer, that comes in and goes on the tipping floor. So every ton there that leaves as recycling is a ton that we don't have to pay for. So we're saving $48 a ton as far as our part every time we take 2, 3, 4, 6, whatever we take. So we're probably, I haven't run the numbers, but it's going to be close to coming out, and we'll do that at budget time. But it's probably coming out pretty much as a wash.
About this time last year, we were looking at cold weather again. And I think this weekend is supposed to be extremely cold. Are all of our facilities ready? I know we had a bad freeze and water leak last year at, I believe it was at Daymart. I just want to be sure that, we're on schedule to, somebody's got the temperatures turned up in these buildings while, everybody's on vacation.
Yes, sir. Well, the Daymart building, all that repair work was done, and all of it was re-insulated. So as long as we maintain a standard of heat in that building, I think we'll be fine. The other facilities that we have, such as the concession stand at the fairgrounds, the pavilion for the Lions Club, all those have been winterized. So they're already taken care of and are in good shape. So hopefully we'll have everything covered. To our knowledge, we have everything covered right now for colder weather.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Anything else, David?
Not this time.
Michael, any questions, comments? Thank you very much, David. Okay. Now we'll go to our department heads, our year-end reports. This is something that happens every year, this meeting, and Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
I just wanted to take a moment. If you look out in our audience today, this is a team that makes up our county government. And I think a couple of years ago, we started implementing this, is to provide you as the commissioners and the public an opportunity as to understand what took place over the last year. And typically we do it on a calendar year, so these guys are here today as representation of each department to provide you with an idea. Sometimes, we have people that stand at that podium every meeting, and we have people that rarely stand at that podium. So this is an opportunity not only for the board, but for our departments to have the chance to communicate what they do and tie into, the county government is a big wheel and we're all spokes in it. So this is an opportunity for them to talk about their departments and to give us all information about that. So I just wanted to lead in with that. I do want to thank everybody for being here and what you do each and every day, but I think it's good information, and I encourage interaction. This is an opportunity to engage or interact with these individuals as well. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, we'll start with Alleghany in motions. Tiffany?
Morning. In 2022, Alleghany in Motion has continued to provide Alleghany County residents and visitors with medical transportation, including Medicaid and Veterans Affairs, agency, elderly and disabled, and rural general public transportation in and out of the county. We have also provided in-county employment transportation. As of December 9th, we've provided 11,099 trips. We have spent 7,533 hours on the road, which is equal to 313 straight days. We have traveled 180,838 miles with no accidents. We have been awarded 5 state and federal grants this year, the first being the Rural Operating Assistance Program for $127,655. This allows us to provide reduced fare transportation for the elderly and disabled, medical trips, employment and training, and rural general public trips. We have been awarded $92,956 for the 5311 Community Transportation Program admin. This helps with 2.5 full-time employees, fringe benefits, drug and alcohol testing, and advertising. We was also awarded $66,501 for 5311 Community Transportation Capital Program, and this was the replacement of one LTV van. We also was awarded $10,000 for the 5310 Elderly and Disabled. This is the program that allows us to transport the elderly and disabled for $1 per stop. We was also awarded $100,713 for CARES Act funding, and that was to help with lost revenue due to COVID. That was a total of $397,825 in state and federal funds. We had 3 full-time employees receive their Passenger Assistant Safety and Sensitivity Trainer recertification, which allows us to complete our own in-house training. And we have replaced 2 race-proof fans this year. Is there any questions?
On questions?
Just clarification, one reason why you are able to provide this service at a significant reduction in cost is by these grants, correct? You look at the cost that other counties provide, it's quite a bit more than what we are at this time. Thank you for what you do, especially the no accidents. That's rather impressive. Thank you.
I'd like to also comment on accidents. That's with all the miles that's been driven, that's an accomplishment also.
Thank you very much. Our drivers are very cautious, and I really appreciate everything they do too.
Michael, any comments?
I think it's a very good representation. I think all services that are offered here in the county are important and crucial for those that need them. This is one I think that we could all get behind, so yeah.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, guys.
Next, Sherry from Board of Elections. Morning.
As elected officials, I have to interact with all of you guys, so you're pretty familiar with me. But I wanted to give you some year-end statistics for the elections department. We ended up with our midterm election at 65.42%, which is up from 2018. 2018 was 61.81%. Can't really compare it to 2020 since it was a presidential, but 2020 was 80.52%. Statewide, North Carolina was only 51.14%. So we were above the statewide average. 2018 was only 52.98% statewide. Our hand-to-eye audit count, we did the U.S. Senate race for Gap Civil and Cherry Lane. They both were 100% spot on, no deficiencies whatsoever, no discrepancies. I do bring in a bipartisan team to do that every election. Our voter registration stats for 2020, as of this past Saturday, we ended our total voter registrations at 7,864. January 1 of 2022 was 7,575, which is an increase of 289 voters just this year. Since 2020, January 1, 2020, we had 7,052 registered voters. So in the last 2 years, we have increased our voter registration by 812, which is huge for Alleghany County. A small portion of that is updated inactive voters, but the majority is from new move-ins, new registrations. Our upcoming election will only be the municipality for the town of Sparta, and with 3 seats coming open. And then we're getting ready to put our minutes online. I'm going to get with Chris and work on getting those on our website, and purging records that are coming up ready for purging. Any questions, comments?
Michelle?
I'm just curious, what are the totals on Republicans, Democrats, and Independents?
Don't have that with me, but I can get it to you. And you can also pull it up on the state website, the voter registration stats. If you want to stop by my office, I'll be glad to show you where to pull that up from.
Greg, questions? Timmy? I think that nationally, they need to look at you, how you run your office here, how fast you get everything done, how smoothly everything runs, especially in the early voting. I know that was a busy time for you.
Yeah.
I virtually heard no complaints about how the election was run this year, and there's really, to my knowledge, no questions were raised.
Thank you.
So I think you all have done a great job.
We have wonderful poll workers. We have some that are aging out, but we have a lot of committed ones. We have new ones that are coming in with interest. As you know, we had observers all this year, and some of the observers were so impressed with our process that they wanted to come be poll workers. So that was a blessing.
Michael, any comments?
No, I'd echo what's been said.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Next is emergency management. Daniel.
Good morning. So, talk to you a little bit about emergency management today and what we've been doing for the last year. First, I want to touch on our annual grant that we receive, our emergency management performance grant. It filters down from FEMA through the state and is used to help offset the cost of running my department. Typically, that grant comes in at about $40,000 a year. This year, because of COVID, like everything else, they were handing out a little bit more money. So this year we received a little over $63,000 in grant money. Now there are deliverables attached to that, participating in regional activities and attending conferences and working with our neighbors and mutual aid agreements and all sorts of things. But it was good to be able to get that extra funding this year. To switch gears just a little bit and talk about the earthquake. We've talked about the earthquake a lot, but we're on year 3 of it now. Some numbers that Dana gave to me, there have been 331 applications that are eligible for assistance, and 257 of those are now complete. 36 still in review, and the balance of those under progress right now. A couple projects of decent scale left. I think if you've noticed on the other side of town at the bridge, the other 2 homes or buildings have been taken down. So we're finally nearing the end of the recovery for the earthquake. I've been working on what the FEMA calls a THIRA plan, Threat and Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment. It sounds a little bit familiar. It's sort of similar to hazard mitigation that we've done for years and years, but FEMA's kind of changing things on us. So it's a big, bulky, cumbersome plan, but they're requiring it of each county, and so that's going to be a multi-year process to work through that, and there'll be more on that to come in the future. At a recent meeting, the National Weather Service attended and presented us with our Storm Ready certification, which I think was a good recognition for the county, basically stating that, we're doing all we can to get their information and disseminate it out to the public. We were the 91st county in North Carolina to get that. It was very important to me to not be last. On a little bit of another note, this year I was able to achieve all of my Level 2 building inspector certificates, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, and building, so that I can help out Travis whenever he needs it. And I'll be looking to go on up to Level 3 in the coming year. Was also selected by a group of my peers in Western North Carolina Emergency Management to represent them in the North Carolina Emergency Management Association. I guess for whatever reason, they decided that they wanted me to take that role as second vice president. So here in a couple of years, as that progression, but I'll become president of their association. So it's a neat little personal accomplishment.
Good.
And then on the dispatch note, we know we've all been working real hard on that. That project is very near completion. The guys were up here Friday actually hanging another piece of equipment on that tower, but it's done now. I'm looking to submit all that paperwork this week. That was $135,000 worth of grant money that's paying for all that. And of course, that paperwork is all due in by the end of the year. So I'm going to have all that financial stuff turned into the state and look to that reimbursement here very soon. We're hoping to actually get it physically picked up and moved early January, the first couple weeks of January. I know it seems like it's been a can we've kicked down the road, but it's kind of been out of our control, waiting on the state and AT&T to do their thing. So they're actually, tomorrow is a test date for the lines. They call test and turn up. So they'll be up here doing some testing on that. Once that passes and is completed, then we'll actually be able to set a move date and line up all the vendors to come in and do all the stuff they do with their equipment and making sure it's hooked up. So that's what we're looking to. And like David mentioned earlier, I think the generator, the transfer switch is here, and we're really hopeful to get that in very soon so we don't have to hodgepodge something together to have a generator. But at any rate, that's all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
John? Michelle? Timmy? I guess getting the earthquake almost behind you has been a big challenge over the last few years.
It has. I mean, recovery is a whale of a project. But to get to where we've gotten in a little over 2 years is remarkable. I deployed to Hurricane Matthew in 2016 to Kinston, and they're still working on recovery for that. So to be where we are now is quite an accomplishment. It speaks volume of what Dana and his group, at NCOSPM have done.
I think back looking at, this was a major disaster for Alleghany County, that we had really never had anything this bad happen. And as smoothly as it was handled, I think was very impressive. It took a few days to get your feet wet, but I think you all did an outstanding job. And the people of the county appreciate it, I know.
Thank you, sir.
Carter?
I just have one comment. We certainly have recognized what Daniel has done. But in addition to all that, now Daniel will also be leading our dispatch center come first of the year, essentially. So, we're looking for good things from that as well. That will be a huge transition, as we all know, not only the physical move, but also the continuing operations and all that goes with that. So looking forward to what Daniel's contribution leading that center will be as well. So.
Any other comments?
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the emergency medical services. Linda. Morning.
I sort of think maybe the previous commissioners, the county manager, and Drew and April have heard all about EMS they want to hear for a year, but...
Used your services.
Yes, and used our services, yes. It's been a challenging and rewarding year at EMS. As with most agencies, we've had difficulties with staffing, both full and part-time. That has not been easy, but thanks to the county manager and to the commissioners, there were a couple of tweaks made in the schedule to allow those folks that are working 24 hours to have a little extra time off. That has been received very well. In doing that, we went from 12 medical positions to 14. When I had 12, I had one I couldn't fill. When I went to 14, I still had one I couldn't fill. I don't want to jinx us, so I'm not going to say we have it filled. I'm going to say hopefully next week that position will be filled. So that has helped the morale. It has helped us a little bit with recruitment. We've seen some difference in all of that and the good it's done. Also, we've had some challenges with supply chain issues with medications and supplies. That seems to be leveling out now. I've also found out it's next to impossible to buy an ambulance right now. I do have a lead on one that I might get, but most companies are quoting a 18 to 24-month lead time on getting a truck. This year we had a Medicaid audit, which I have not had in 10 years. It's sort of a random thing they do with EMS agencies, and that went very well. They didn't find any deficiencies on our end of that. Also this year, we added the EMD program to our system plan. Since they are a medical agency, it had to be included in our system modification, and so the state received that paperwork and approved it, and so that's all official with them. If you ask the state who's in our EMS system, they will tell you it's Alleghany EMS, Alleghany Rescue, Laurel Springs Fire Department. Every fire department that has medical responders and now EMD, so it's a pretty large system of medical responders. Our folks, when they have not been running calls, have been doing community outreach, teaching hands-only CPR and first aid. They've worked with the Girl Scouts. They've worked with the health camp kids in the summer, so they have tried to reach out to try to help people to be able to do things while they're waiting for the ambulance to get there. In closing, even with the challenges, we've had a lot more call responses this year. In 2021, we were dispatched out on 1,975 calls. As of this morning, for 2022, we have had 2,103. So that's a pretty significant increase with the staff we have. 30% of our calls are, about 30% are out of county, and that's not just transfer from hospital to hospital, it's transfer from the scene to the hospital, from the residents to the hospital for those folks who need to be at a specialty center. So the guys have been busy. They're going to work on recruitment. It was approved that we could hire EMT basics with a contract. They get their paramedic. We have, the one I'm hoping is also a basic, but we have hired one full-time basic. That is going very well, has been well received, and she's doing very well. So that's about all I have, unless you have a question for me.
Don?
Just a comment, you don't know how much you're appreciated until we need you. But to put some springs in those ambulances.
It's not a smooth ride.
No, it is not, especially whenever they're trying to run an IV. But thank you for everything you do, and I know it was appreciated, and it took a load off of my wife's mind whenever you took me the last time, so hopefully it won't be anymore. Thank you. And please pass that on to everyone.
I will.
If you could just go through where ambulance service, where they transport people to, our responsibility, or what we do is we transport mainly to Winston-Salem,
Mainly, yes.
to Elkin sometimes.
And depending on the part of the county, sometimes Twin County, because they have an orthopedist and they have some of the other specialty services.
How is that arrived at as to what our distance, how far we can reach out? I've had a gentleman ask about transport to Charlotte, and I told him the best I could remember, that's out of our area that we service.
Yes. We actually have a transport policy, and that limits our out-of-town transports to 85 miles. That's just so we can get an ambulance back in the county as quickly as possible. Normally, if we go to Baptist, which is a little over 70 miles, it takes, by the time you drive down there, drive back, unload the patient, and give them a report, you're probably looking at 3.5 hours. So we don't want to be gone much longer than that.
And the responsibility of transport, is that a county responsibility or a hospital responsibility to provide an ambulance?
Generally, for the 911 type calls, it's the counties. The inter-facility transports from, say, the local hospital to another facility, that patient, when they are at the hospital, are the hospital's responsibility, and therefore arranging transport is their responsibility. It doesn't necessarily fall on us. If we are available, we try to do those. But if we have situations where we know it is going to leave the county short, we tend to decline those and let them use another service.
And the hospital has the availability to reach out to a lot of different agencies or private individuals for transport.
Yes, and actually, they have done much better at that. We have seen a small decrease in the number of transports we're doing out of there. Baptist has a unit that comes, Forsyth has a unit that comes, there's a private service in Yadkinville that comes, but they have been doing a lot of outreach to other agencies.
Mr. Carter, comments?
I'd just like to say that, going back to what Linda had mentioned, we've talked a lot about EMS this past year, and we've come a long way in the last year in not only providing for, but increasing our service. There was some times when it got pretty dark, I guess I'll put it that way, and all through that, Linda kept her head up, and I never seen her get excited. I never saw any of that. And today, I think, and I'm not going to jinx it either, Linda, but we are in a much better position today, both internally with the recruitment and the morale of our employees, and that transfers to what services we can provide. And once this last position is taken care of, I think that's certainly a mark in Linda's favor for being a trooper throughout that. So I really appreciate what she's done over this last year in that situation.
Thank you for those comments. Anything else, Linda? Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us to Finance and Human Resources. April.
Morning again.
Yeah.
We talked about finance a little bit this morning. I'll talk about HR a little bit. We have 134 full-time positions, and we average between 30 and 40 part-time folks working in each payroll that need to be paid out. We do process payroll every 2 weeks. And last fiscal year, the year that we were just talking about with the audit, we processed $5,673,603 in payroll for the county. We handle all the benefits in the finance and HR office: health insurance, vision, dental, Aflac, Colonial. We participate in the North Carolina retirement system, the local government division of that. That's paid in each month. And employees have a couple other venues to save for retirement, a 401k and a nationwide 457. So all of that has to be paid in either monthly or right after the payroll when the deductions come out. We also handle life insurance, and we work real close with the credit union here. Anything that an employee can do with the credit union, we can do payroll deducted for them, so we work real close with them. On the AP side, we processed $23,498,510 in AP last fiscal year. That sounds like a big number because our current year budget is $18.4 million. But the total current budget, just the general fund budget, is $18,412,892. But we have 17 additional funds that are on top of that general fund budget. So the total is actually $26,335,763 that we take care of in the finance office. Examples of those additional funds: SCIF funding for the courthouse. We have $2 million in that. We have $200,000 for additional SCIF projects. We're getting ready to have a SCIF pool fund that this board will come to you next month when we receive the funds, and we have to set up that project ordinance for those funds. ARPA funds are in a separate fund. We have outdoor recreation funds, so that's just an example of those additional funds that we do take care of also. Monthly, we take care of the solid waste billing in our office. Actually, the Assistant Finance Officer, Robin Hamilton, is the lead on that. We file monthly reports with federal and state. Robin does all the SCIF reporting for the first two funds that the county received, and I will be doing the reporting on the pool funds that the county will be receiving. We also have opioid funds. That is in a separate fund, and I do take care of that reporting. I think that's a quarterly reporting. Sales tax is reported monthly, and we do have some yearly things on sales tax that we have to report. We handle open enrollment each year for all of our employees. And of course, we're heavily involved in the budget process. I myself sit on that finance and budget committee and is in all of those meetings, work real close with the budget officer, the county manager, to develop a budget and get that budget approved each year. Linda and I just went through a Medicaid report that is due each year. We do a cost allocation plan report. That is something that's required for social services and Alleghany in Motion, and we have a few other folks. If there's any grant funding out there, that cost allocation plan has to be in place. We handle all the workers' comp claims in our office. Last year, we did a RFP for banking services. We started that process in April of last year, and we're just now getting that wrapped up, but we have changed our banking services. We changed from Truist to Fifth Third. Rita and I work real closely together, and we have a shared employee. Carrie Baker is that new position, a new person in that position, and we just promoted Dalila Carranza Ordonia out of that position, and she's the payroll specialist for the finance office now. Last year we had 64 new hires, and we had just about as many terms. Terminations can be retirees, they can be resignations, they can be the whole gamut. But we had almost as many going out as we had coming in. And I participated in between 55 and 60 interviews last year, and I did this fiscal year, all these stats. Can I answer any questions about finance or HR?
Well, thank you for all that information. We much appreciate it. We much appreciate the good financial report. Mr. Carter, any comments?
I'll just say that whether it be HR or finance, April and I in particular, we have a good working communication between us. And, there are times that we probably vent to each other about whatever the issue may be, and don't have to make any additional comments about the finances of the county. I think they are in line. I think April has done a very well job at getting us to that point. It's not always easy when you deal with finance and when you deal with HR. Sometimes you upset people, and unfortunately that's just part of it. And April and her team, I believe, do a wonderful job of helping to mediate and moderate that, and very pleased with, she mentioned some turnover. I think Scott mentioned some turnover, and unfortunately that happens, but it's not so much why there's turnover, it's how you adapt to it. And I think we have a very positive outlook in that finance and HR office.
Thank you for those words. Anything else, April?
Just want to thank Robin, Dalila, and Carrie.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work goes into our office, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
The next GIS, that's Mary Rector.
Morning. As you'll probably hear from Travis and Miranda, it's been a busy year. Deeds, I have processed 1,150 deeds. Of those, 925 of them were straight transfers of property. 130 of them were splits and transfers. 95 of those were combinations, and we're seeing an uptick in those for sewer and septic permits. They have to have their lots combined. I know Timmy's probably run into that a couple of times. In remapping and adjusting of properties, I've done 470 remaps and adjusts of properties on the county mapping. We've assigned 127 new addresses. That's for new construction, RVs, barns, anybody that's needing an address for a structure. Road signs, we've actually are really down this year. We've only had to replace 47. Of those 47, 41 of them had to be made, 6 of them were able to be salvaged. Also this year, I have been working a lot behind the scenes, helping Daniel to get the new dispatch center going. Been doing a lot of ordering, getting new equipment in here, and upgrading the equipment for the dispatchers. Any questions?
John?
You also are the liaison with the 911 committee, are you
Yes.
not?
Yes.
You're
the 911
leaving out a very important part because we get money from it.
Yes, everything that, pretty much all the equipment and stuff that we are buying is through the 911 funds.
Michelle? Greg? Carter, comments?
It seems like I get one on every one, and that's fine. But what I want to point out with Mary is, for you, I guess, at least John and Bobby, I'm not sure about Michelle, but we had some changes that took place in that office. And with those changes, Mary has certainly came to the forefront. And I know Commissioner John Irwin, you mentioned the 911 board and the instrumental work with that. And she has been that. She is the liaison between the county and the 911 board. Her and Daniel make a great team. You know, we've went so far, I mentioned earlier about Daniel, but we've also recognized Mary and her contributions to that. And she is on top of her normal duties, she is a very good resource for the county, and her abilities to just openly speak with the 911 board and to provide good communication. So we're very proud of her for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Next is our IT person, Chris Miller.
Good morning. First year, it's been a busy year for the IT department. I've worked with Ideacom to do the phone and network overhaul, and that's completed, and all major issues from that have been corrected. I've worked to replace the admin building servers with one server for all of the departments here at the admin building. We're working right now, we're replacing the servers at DSS, and that's mostly complete. I've worked with Dell to make under warranty repairs to the records management server at the sheriff's office. I've implemented a cloud backup solution and a countywide antivirus and patch management solution. I've implemented also a remote support solution for me to make support for users at other locations a little more efficient. I took over the county websites and redesigned the main county website. And also, updating elections and all the other county websites, excuse me. Assisted with the bank and credit card provider changes and the dispatch center move. I replaced and repaired multiple computers. I set up new hires for the email and network access, provided informational alerts to users, and also provided daily troubleshooting of errors and assistance at county employees. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I know you've had a full year this year. A lot of equipment's been ordered, a lot that's been installed, and I think you've had a big hand in that. We very much appreciate what all you do. Michael, comments?
Sure, I'd just like to say that if you took an internal poll of the employees and who they hold very high, which I ask at most of our department head meetings, Chris is very well appreciated here in the county and what he does. And, you know, I've heard people even mention him as in their prayers at some point. So having Chris in an IT department here is certainly a step forward for the county, in my opinion. And I think it's clearly demonstrated what he's done over the past year. Being someone who did not have a predecessor to come in and take on those challenges and those concerns, I think speaks very high of what he's done. So I think he has a very bright future here in the county, and we appreciate it.
We appreciate that. We appreciate you. Thank you. Next, it looks like North Carolina Cooperative Extension. That would be Amy. Ed? Oh, no.
I brought friends. I hope that's okay. I won't take up too much time. I know we're on a tight schedule this morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Lucas. I'm your Cooperative Extension Director as well as your 4-H agent. I just wanted to give a quick overview of Extension. So just so everyone knows, we are the educational outreach of NC State University and A&T State University. So there are, if you open to your first page, just so you can see with me, and then Drew has been nice enough to put this up, but there are 6 of us in the Alleghany office. 3 of us are full-time dedicated just to Alleghany, and then we have 3 part-time folks that are shared with other counties as well. So, but I'm going to go ahead and jump to this infographic that Drew has so kindly put up, and this is on the last page of your report. When you have time, please do go through. These are some of the success stories that we have, and that's why I brought my friend Brad here with me today, because he's going to talk a little bit about some changes in the Christmas tree industry, which is right now forefront in Alleghany County. But I'm going to go through my part first, and then I'm going to let him talk. So if you look on the last page of your report to the people, you can kind of get a snapshot of what we have accomplished over the past year. So we've had 52,917 contacts. Those are digital as well as face-to-face. 550 of our folks have improved knowledge of local food and agriculture systems. We have Jill Cockram, who works as our local foods coordinator. She works at our farmers market as well as at the High Country Kitchen over in Ashe County. We had 562 4-H youth that are involved in community-based clubs, camps, and special interests, as well as school enrichment. 120 clients who earned their pesticide certifications. 53 increased knowledge of safe food handling. We want you to be able to preserve your agriculture in a safe way where you don't kill yourself or others. Beef quality assurance, we had 75 youth that were certified in 2022. Aaron Ray Tompkins, who is our ag agent, works closely with our local high school as well as others in the state and has actually started a wonderful competition, and there's an article piece just about that in here. We had 50,000 plus digital impressions. Part of that thanks to Chris, wherever he's gone. I don't know where he's gone. We do hold him in high regards. 45 adults increased their fruit and vegetable consumption, which may sound like, well, so what? Here's what I'll tell you. Chronic disease reduction is linked straight to the increase in fruit and vegetable consumption. Chronic disease then adds money back to the county. That's a cost on us. So if we can help reduce those chronic diseases, we are doing nothing but improving our county as a whole. And hopefully limit the number wherever Linda left to, but limit the services needed from Linda's folks. We had 425 youth increase their knowledge in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. Also, arts is sometimes included in there as STEAM. We have over 4,000 acres where Extension has recommended nutrient applications where those were used. We had 9 newspaper articles. We had 8 radio programs, 13 FNAP sessions, which were delivered to help with families with nutrition, 14 animal waste management credits, 783 participants trained in farm safety. we see this as an increasing need and something that we address annually because we continue to see accidents occur, and we're trying to do everything we can to help keep those numbers down. And 22 participants increased their physical activity. So, but I'm going to turn it over to my friend Brad, who's going to talk about Christmas tree. And if you turn to page 5 of your report, you can see the article that Brad's going to hit on just a little bit, the Christmas Tree Seed Center of Excellence. So I'm going to turn that over to him.
Everybody's doing well. So the Christmas Tree Seed Center of Excellence is a new building that's going to be built at Upper Mountain Research Station. The reason that's, pertinent to this county, make a long story short, this is the very first year in decades that tobacco has not been worked with at Upper Mountain Research Station. So we're moving out of tobacco and more into trees, but so is the funding. So the Tobacco Institute give us $385,000 to build a new facility on the station. This station's going to be used for a lot of genetic work and have a real high-tech lab in it. The hopes and the goals is to grow a better Christmas tree. We'll be doing that by crossing a lot of the clones that's already on the station. And we also have a orchard that we put on the station about 7 years ago that is the most advanced Christmas tree orchard in the world. So this is a really big deal. The numbers I want to talk to you about, we just released some new numbers for Christmas trees in the state of North Carolina. These are not Alleghany County numbers. This is the state of North Carolina. But we're putting Christmas trees valued at $412 million. So I didn't want to send Amy in here and send her to the wolves with those kind of numbers. And I wanted to kind of come back her up in case anybody had any questions about the facility or about these numbers or where these numbers come from. That's the reason I'm here.
Timmy. North Carolina ranks as one of the top, 3 or 4 in the nation for Christmas trees?
Bobby, we're number 1 if you look at financial, the actual dollar amount. If we're looking at number of trees sold, I think we're closing in on that pretty quick too. So we're going to be number 1 in both categories.
What about, how does Alleghany rank with our neighbors, Ash or?
I have the privilege of working 3 different counties and I don't see county lines. Allegany's got a lot of Christmas trees, but if we be really honest with ourselves, a lot of the numbers that we created this from, those trees are actually grown in Virginia from growers that are based out of North Carolina. So even our largest grower here, the truth is probably 90% of his trees are coming from the state of Virginia.
Well, you're talking about Christmas trees. How do we rank in pumpkins?
We're staying right around, Alleghany and Ash is right around 3,000 acres in pumpkin production. The reason pumpkins do really well here is we've got the right climate and environment, but more importantly, we're closer to the south than states like Indiana are. So that means shipping. There's a huge amount. If we can cut shipping costs on pumpkins, then that's how we're able to grow them and actually sell them. That's how we got into the pumpkin market.
I get a lot of questions around pumpkin time. People see them out there picking like mad, but then all of a sudden they've quit and their fields look like they're full of pumpkins. Those pumpkins didn't meet the criteria to be shipped, is that?
That's exactly right. They may have been off-size from what the grower was looking for, or if you're familiar with how a pumpkin grows, it'll set a fruit and grow a vine, set a fruit, grow a vine, and set a fruit. When they're picking pumpkins, those pumpkins have to be ripe and ready to go into the stores, which means there's pumpkins on the vine at the time of picking that's not ready yet. So what happens is the farmer may move through and then those pumpkins actually turn and become orange. And yeah, it does sometimes look like there's just as many pumpkins left as there is taken out.
John, you got a question?
Not a question, just a comment. And this reflects on the largest grower that we have, Bottomley's. Wreaths Across America is a project that the Marine Corps League in Ashe County handles. Miss Bottomley gave us a tractor truckload of wreaths. It's the first time the Veterans Cemetery in Statesville had a wreath on every veteran's tombstone. She made it possible.
That's amazing, and, so thank her for that, and I'd like to give an open invitation if individually or as a group, you want to come to the research station at any time and see what's going on. It's pretty remarkable, really, what happens just right down the road right here.
Mr. Carter?
I'll just say that I would like to do that. I don't know.
I'm headed there when I leave here. You're welcome to go.
I think that's pretty amazing information. 400+ million of estimates on Christmas trees. That's something to think about. That's a lot of ho-ho-hoing right there.
And it's not that we have more acres of Christmas trees than what we've had in the past. We're actually staying pretty constant. It's just the values of trees are up so much higher than what they have been where we've based things in the past. And the Christmas trees, like any other product, our fertilizers has doubled, and all the inputs have doubled, so tree prices are higher than they've ever been.
To mention about Amy, your portion of it, that office, sometimes, you don't understand it. If you look at those last two charts as an example, that office reaches children, it reaches adults. There's no boundary to what they reach. So I think that's really important to point out.
I would say we had, so we are offering some online classes too. That's something we started during COVID. We had people from Australia and the United Kingdom that participated in some of our Alleghany County programs. And so that, that says a lot. It says a lot to me. I have a great staff. I can't brag enough on the folks that I work with. They are out in the field. You come by our office, you may not see us because we're not there a lot, but I'm telling you, feet on the ground, and they are making stuff happen. And I'm super proud of them, and I couldn't do my job without them. So they're really great folks.
Maybe you and Brad can arrange a tour for us one day. Not this Friday. I think it's going to be a little too cold, but look for it maybe in the spring.
Yeah, Tracy Taylor is wonderful, and Brad works super close with him, and he's just a great guy, always helping us. Yeah, we'd love to take you guys out there anytime you want to go. So,
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for your support.
And hearts go out to you.
Thank you.
Next, planning and inspections. Travis.
Morning, Board. Today is on my report. I've just got strictly straight numbers. And for our new houses, we had 64 new houses permitted this year, which is down from 86 from last year. Of these this year, only 2 were earthquake rebuilds in the numbers. There's a couple more could be coming. Last year we had 7 that were total new construction built house. Additions and remodels, 41 permits, which was down from 54 from the previous year. Garages were up to 34. And then our commercial permits are up to 51 from 23. Which a lot of those are little small businesses doing work that still require commercial. As far as planning side, our plats are at 135. That's where we sign off as a review officer and as subdivision as a plan director. Planning board, we've had 3 conditional use permits that require a public hearing. And as of right now, or as of last week, my permit fees are in at right at $150,000 for the year. That's it.
Questions? I always ask about the septic tank permits and the wells. Has that improved any? What's the lag time?
I haven't heard lately on that. I don't spend a lot of time in the office here lately. I'm always out in the field, but it must be coming down because I'm not hearing complaints.
Yes. I can probably say some good things. It has came down. Law up a lot better than it was. I'm talking about that. Which I earthquake thing. Pretty incredible. Some really good stuff.
I know that the health department has recently, we've put in about an extra $200 and some thousand for our district, which is Watauga, Ash, and Alleghany, to help with the inspections. The big problem there is finding somebody that's qualified, to do the inspections. I do know that the health department statewide, and they're trying to address some of the qualifications from the General Assembly. It takes a 2-year college degree right now in science to be to have that certification. Then you have to have almost a year of apprenticeship working out in the field before you can go on your own. So it's a challenge. Economically, it's a challenge. Attorneys can't close on land, builders can't start building, people even getting a well re-inspected or re-drilled. It's been a major problem. So I'm glad to hear from Timmy that it's maybe a little bit better than it was, but I think we've always got a long ways to go in that department.
Another thing that helped with that is where the state's allowing people to do private engineered systems, where if, say, the health department's backlogged 3 months, you can hire an engineer or soil scientist to come design your system. The health department still has to sign it, but all design work's pre-approved, pre-set up, which is additional fee, but if you're by on a timeline, you can get it done faster. And that took some load off, because some of my bigger developments, they're using engineered systems, and that's took another load off of the health department too.
Mr. Carter, comments?
Just to expand on what Commissioner Tim Evans said, I agree. The time I've been here, the inspections department is 2 people. And I know Daniel helps out in that department, and we certainly appreciate that. But for Travis and Tony, they're essentially that department. They do a phenomenal job of keeping track and keeping up. It's not unusual for Travis to, we were talking before the meeting, he's all over the place. He's like American Express. He's good anywhere. So, he does a really great job of that and keeping things in line, and the number of trips and things that he does throughout the day. That office really represents Alleghany County well, and we're very proud of him.
Anything else? Any other comments? Appreciate it. Appreciate
you
what you all do.
Thank you.
Looks like David Spicer's up next. Public Works.
Mr. Chairman and Board, again, thank you for allowing me here. This year, for our, I tried not to leave anything out, so if I've missed something, please excuse that. But the administration building here, we've taken care of our earthquake damage. Our walls and our floors have been mostly repaired. We do have some work upstairs left yet on the floor, but other than that, that has been taken care of. As you see, the evidence of the carpet that has been installed in the lower level. The dispatch remodels, that has really been a task, but that has come along well, and as you've already heard, that hopefully by next month we should be ready for that to transition. Our generator, we're looking for it hopefully to be after the first of the year to be delivered so that we can get our transfer switch and all that put in. So that will run everything in this building. However, for your information, I do have a plan that if that generator does not show up and dispatch needs to be moved, I do have the ability to run those things with generators. So I have all of that already in place, and I'm ready to go with that need it be taken care of. So there is a contingency plan if push comes to shove. We've done a little landscaping around here. Things looks a little better there around the tower. We put the new tower up out back, and that has had to have some landscaping done around it. So we're looking to continue with some of that and to make some more improvements here in the upcoming year to the administration building. The lights, again, the lights have been mostly replaced. There is a few still yet left for that. The courthouse, we got a new roof on the front. So that was completed this year. The water damage inside was fixed. After the roof was put on, then we was able to go back in and complete the repairs in there. Wouldn't have made much sense to still been leaking and make the repairs without the roof being fixed. So we do that kind of in order. That was taken care of. The earthquake damage was fixed. Stone Restoration did a good job there in taking care of that. The heat's been fixed and the fire alarm problems have been resolved. The Daymark building, Bobby mentioned about the water leak there. We had a line that froze and busted, but actually it didn't freeze. It was a defect in the pipe. So that defect in the pipe caused several gallons of water to come down last year over the period of Christmas. So we were here working during our Christmas break to get that kind of assistance to Daymark about getting some of the water up, but it took a little while to get it all repaired. So that's been taken care of. So we did have to put a new pressure reducing valve on that line. It stopped up and we had no pressure, so that was taken care of there at Daymark. Over at the EMS base, we did have some erosion problems there on the bank that's between the EMS base and Skyline. That has been fixed. New stone has been put down, and that has been eliminated. So we did have a survey of the property that is adjacent to us in the back. That survey was done by the owner or the new owner of the property there. There was a little bit of a discrepancy about the line. The line has been resolved. So when they called and Drew and I met them up there was about 6 feet. And since then, it's been moved back to, it's only like 18 inches now where the property line was set and is good. So all that's taken care of. The fairgrounds, the concession stand repair, all that has been taken care of so that we could have it inspected. That way it would be able to be used. We've had to do some repairs out at the training ground. The drive out there, some new gravel was put in place and all that was taken care of. We had some water damage to the grandstands. The drainage there was repaired and fixed, so that has been taken care of. There is still yet some earthquake damage out there to make repairs on. We have had estimates on that where the cracks is, and we're going to route those out and reseal all of those things. So most of the lighting has been fixed out there. There's a couple of more lights that we do need to repair that's in the grass area for events that take place. So then at Veterans Park, we have the Charters of Freedom had come in and asked to be able to put monuments down there that holds the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the Bill of Rights. So all that work has been completed. They look really nice. We've leveled up around them. We do want to put some lighting on that, and we're looking at those options at this time. At our transfer facility, our loaders give us a lot of trouble. Right now, it's doing good. So with that being said, our loader is actually operating correctly now. We've had a lot of trouble with that. ACT has helped us out with the most of that. That's not been a great big expense for us. It's been warranty work, so we're very thankful for that. So with the tipping floor, we've had to repair it several times. It has almost got to the point of not being able to be repaired very easily. So we're working towards that. We have sent out a couple of RFPs on that with no response. But we are looking to maybe change that or revamp that and to see maybe about sending it out again after the first of the year and trying to get that taken care of. So with the contract for the temporary tipping floor, as soon as it is complete, then we'll be ready to fix the tipping floor and expand it. That was part of that SCIF funding that you heard of, the $100,000 that's been allocated for that. So with the commingle, for recycling, we have commingled 20 tons. We have 29 tons of cardboard that we have sent down the road. So the question was asked about cost of that. We've only paid for the 2 loads. The rest of it, we haven't received a bill on. So it's just what it cost us to get them there. We have been selling our scrap metal. We've sold 66.58 tons. That has yielded the county $13,632.50. As I said, we have some that we need to take now. I got a notification this week that it's went up $1, so we're going to try to get some hauled down there while the price is up. With our animal control, and this is only a report from March until December. March is when we started reporting animal control statistics to the board. So with that, we've had a number of dog bites, and for some reason, I don't have my, that's my fault. I've left a piece of paper laying on my desk. However, we have had 351 calls. It's yielded 668 hours. We've drove, and this is only for a month because we just started reporting mileage this month. So 411 miles in the first month that we've traveled. This month was only like 98 hours. So we've been running anywhere from 80 to 140 hours for animal control each and every month, and this has become a pretty good job.
John, any comments or questions?
I have a question. What is the HVAC status for the equipment room at the BDC?
That was supposed to be on schedule, however, the contractor has yet to finish or complete that. I will follow up with that contractor because we will be back in spring and hot weather before
We don't
know
have to
it.
worry about heat right now,
Right.
cooling right now, but we've been in this process for 2 years.
At least. At least.
So all that I have.
And then the last I talked to him, he was going to honor the quote that he gave us. So, I apologize for that not getting done. I'm just at the mercy of who's fixing it, so.
Well, nothing. Greg?
Next weekend, Brian Killen's on dog catcher duty. I want to ride with him, seriously.
Okay.
I don't live far from him.
Right.
I won't go take a call with him that weekend.
Okay. Do it.
Jimmy? I have no questions. Michael, you have a comment or questions?
Sure, I've got a comment. David and his team, they are the ones that do a lot. And, when you're rattling down these things, they do a lot. And, sometimes it's hard to keep track of it. Sometimes things slip, sometimes things happen. But I owe it to him and his team both to say that irregardless of who it is, you ask them, you remind them, you do whatever it is you got to do, it gets done. And I think that's a testament to David's ability as a leader. I think it demonstrates what kind of good people he's got working for him. And we're going into the winter months, and, we sometimes forget how we even get in the building sometimes. We get in the building because these guys and gals are out there making sure we can get in this building or get in a building. And I can't say enough good about him or his team. I'm just very, very glad they're here and proud that they work here in Alleghany.
I will add one other thing. I did mention the Carton Council grant, but I did have a grant that we've applied for another compactor for recycling the cardboard. So we're looking for that to help us improve on that as well.
Thank you. Next is recreation. Randy.
Hello, everyone. I just took out some numbers 'cause I've only been here 6 months, so I can't exactly give you a year's report. But Bet Park, these are, some of them may be baseball or birthday rentals. We've had 10 bookings at Bet Park. 28, that's either the top or the bottom of Lions Club bookings, and 29 at the fairgrounds, and that could be the actual fairgrounds or that could be the black building. It's not separated on the what we have. On my sports side, I've only really started at the very end of T-ball and soccer, but soccer numbers was up. We had approximately 155 kids out this past year on soccer, and we've not completely finished with basketball. We have done the first and second grade has just started up, and the numbers are good on it. It's we're about 30 kids at just first and second grade level, so numbers continue where we are. They look pretty good. A couple of things that we have we like to do. We're going to change this year with the baseball group that we was with, which was Southwest Virginia, and switch it to Dixie. One of the reasons I think drive time is one of those things. We're having to travel as far. Competition is going to be as good, if not better. And the big thing is, I just went to a meeting on if a kid participates for 2 years with Dixie League organization, when they're a senior in high school, they can actually qualify for a $2,000 scholarship through Dixie League. So that was, another good reason to do that. Like our frisbee golf, I would like to somehow, and I don't know what, but maybe put signs out or do something to increase participation on it. We are hosting a spring tournament, which typically brings out a lot of people. From what I understand, I wasn't here when the last one was done, but they said there was a lot of folks that did come out. On Davis Field, I would like to do some upgrades because that field is used quite often. From April on, we have T-ball, coach's pitch, and then the upper grades of baseball. One of the things is the press box. So when the press box was put in many, many years ago, it's so far away from where the home plate is that to run the score clock, you don't know if that they called a ball strike or what, because you're too far away. So one of the plans is to move the press box from where it's at now to maybe in behind the backstop. And with that being said, I do have enough local merchants that's willing to help with a new scoreboard. So that's another thing we're kind of looking at doing also. And just, as far as the program goes, continue with our youth sports, but also with some adult sports at some point. We did add a volleyball program this past year, which was
we had about 30 kids on it. But I've had a lot of folks mention they like to do adult volleyball, so we'll just have to see as far as gym space is our, biggest issue on that. But it's a couple things I like to do down at the fairgrounds this year. We're going to have a youth fishing day, which is not going to cost us nothing. It's not going to cost the kids anything. And we're also going to do a Easter egg hunt that same month of April. And hopefully, if things comes together in October, where the fairgrounds does the egg fair, they have the corn maze up top, that we may be doing a haunted corn maze up. Pretty much everything I've got. If y'all have any questions or comments?
On questions or
He
comments?
answered my question about the signs for the disc golf course. I know I've been stopped. People coming into town, they know we've got a course, but we don't know how to get there. Hopefully we can get that done.
Michelle? Craig?
Days a week you spend mowing, Randy, so
Typically 3 at the minimum, because we have Davisfield Lions Club and Fairgrounds and the always call it the training facility down on the end is typically what we have, because sometimes we can't do it all in one day, because at that, like when since I've started, let me put it that way. In that day, you still have 2 fields that you have to drag and get ready for games that day, or vice versa. So you may mow X amount of time on one day and have to go back and finish the next day just because of fields and games that evening.
Mr. Carter, comments?
I'd just like to say, Randy led into it with a 6-month window, and it's great what has happened in this last 6 months as it relates to the rec department. I talk to Randy nearly every day, probably, and communication's great. I think it's obvious to me he is the right person to be in that position because of where his heart and his mind is. And I, for one, am looking, for this to continue and looking for great things out of Randy, because he has the intricate knowledge, I think, of how to make things work and bring it together, and just a good talker. And I think he has that ability to communicate. So, very positive. Thank you.
One more thing, we did hire Austin Sprinkle, and he has been a really big help. Good with the kids. He does a whole lot for me, me able to do something.
And I know that we've had quite a few conversations about a new swimming pool, and I think that that Michelle's on that committee with me and you and Michael and several others, and we're going to get started back here very shortly, so we can get some preliminary plans laid out and see where we're going to go.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Register of Deeds. Miranda. Morning.
So to kind of give you an update on the real estate market in the county, unfortunately, we're down a little bit. We were holding pretty steady with the prior years up until about October, and then things have started to decrease from there. We're still busy. It's still doing well, but from October till now, there's about a $45,000 to $50,000 difference as far as income into the office. As of Friday afternoon, we've done $109,034 in excise tax. That's the number, $2 per thousand, based on the properties that are sold based on their purchase price. This time last year, we were at $158,891. So they can tell you about where we are. It is typical that it slows down when it starts getting cold, so it's not uncommon for it to slow down a little bit, but these numbers are treaded more along the lines of where 2020 was, not 21. We have also, with the little bit less busy time in our office, we've started working on a couple of projects where we are scanning in our old deed of trust books and putting them online for our attorneys, title searchers, individuals who can go back. These are 100 books that never got scanned in. As title searchers and attorneys know, you can't look at those online. So our office is working. It's just the three of us doing this. We're doing it all in-house. It's about a $10,000 project. But we were able to scan it in. We're doing all the indexing, all the proofing, and doing everything ourselves. The only thing that Logan, our vendor, is doing is redacting all Social Security numbers or any personal information that shouldn't be online. With that, the state did approve for registered deeds offices to apply for a grant. We were able to get up to $2,000 if we applied, which I did. I did receive that $2,000, and as of, I think, this morning, Michael signed the agreement that we got an additional $2,100 and some change. So we've got roughly about $4,100 that I can use toward that project or another project that we're going to have. Hopefully by March, we'll have our second project either started or at least almost completed, and that's a conversion of our marriage indexes. Right now, the way we search for our marriages is a little cumbersome. It takes us a while because we go back to 1849 on our marriages and our land records. In searching for those marriages, we have to search by a date and not by name. So hopefully by the time this project we completed, we'll be able to find those individuals by their name and not have to search by their date of marriage, which takes quite a while. I hired a new employee back in September, Nicole Brown. She is catching on very quickly. I am very grateful for her. She is doing a phenomenal job. Came in, was very eager to learn. She's catching on very quickly and doing very well. Of course, Jackie's still with us. I don't know what I'd do without Jackie either. She's phenomenal. I dread the day that she gives me her retirement as well. I hope that's no time soon. Outside of that, it's just business as usual. Do y'all have any questions?
John, Michelle, Craig, comments, Mr. Carter?
Sure. I want to say that Miranda and her office is one of those that I haven't heard, and government's government, but I don't hear any negativity towards that office. I don't hear people having issues. I don't hear people having complaints. I don't hear that. Now, granted, some departments, that's what you're supposed to do. But I don't hear that from well, I couldn't turn all the way. But, I don't hear that from that office, which demonstrates to me her leadership and her team assembled. They're taking care of what needs to be taken care of. And I know she's had to work through some transitions or one transition and maybe dreading another transition, but she's done an excellent job at that. And I think it's a testament to what her leadership and what her office does is how fluid that whole process works. So we appreciate that.
I'd like to say that I've had to use your office several times in the last year, and it's just not this, when new property sold or whatever like that. You're a detective agency is what I call you. When you start researching some of these old deeds, you have to be able to read the way that they were writing back in those days and interpret those words as to what it means for a call for this piece of land here or this piece of land here. You do a lot of detective work, and I know that when I used you, I really appreciated it. It was time-consuming, but the people in your office almost instantly knew where to go to start researching those questions. I thank you for that. Thank you. Next is Lisa Osborne, Social Services.
today?
So far, so good.
Good. So I hope everybody got a copy of my report before, and I'm not going to sit and read, or stand and read that to you or go through every page, but I just want to hit some of the highlights. We do have 43 children in custody today. We have about 20 adult wards that we're responsible for. And so we do many other things. I've tried to list all the programs that we have in my report, but I do want to bring attention to some of the highlights. Of course, our total budget, that doesn't mean that it's money coming in, but it is money that goes to our citizens and that type thing, but it's approximately 27 million, just a little over 27 million for our department. We get federal, state, and county funding, so if you'll turn to page 8, I'll just hit some highlights here, but I think it is imperative to note that our food nutrition program, the numbers in that food nutrition program, COVID, they implemented supplemental benefits for that. So this county, the residents of this county alone received $6.4 million, a little over that. So that's a lot of food and nutrition assistance that came into this county this past fiscal year. Our adult services saw a tremendous increase in services. It increased by about 50%. We're responsible for approximately 5 individuals managing all their money, but then we are solely responsible for 20 individuals, and that's ebbed and flowed some throughout the year. And our subsidy funding, it has decreased, but part of that is due to just not having enough daycares to meet the need for the county. So, then I want to call your attention to our energy assistance programs, and that's on page 12. For last fiscal year, we assisted 245 households for our low-income energy assistance, and that averaged about $62,000 worth of benefits to the citizens. And then they had a one-time supplement of approximately $117,000. Our crisis program, it was down somewhat, but we assisted 153 households, and that was approximately $47,000 worth of assistance. And then we implemented a new energy assistance program, and that was a water program. The state gave us funds to help those with their water bill who were receiving cutoff notices and that type thing to keep it on. So we did spend approximately $4,700 last fiscal year in that program, and we still have funds for that and are still doing that program. It's ongoing till those funds run out. Then if you'll turn over to child support. Our child support staff, they recouped $523,686 in child support funds, which is very good. They took 76 new applications for child support. So we have approximately 27 individuals that are employed at our agency, and our numbers are ever increasing. And with expanded Medicaid on the horizon, I feel like that's going to ever increase. So we serve and touch quite a bit of the population within the county and assist them with various needs. So, you have any other questions?
You answered all mine. Of course, she knew I was going to ask how many children in foster care.
Bill?
I just want to say that I sit on this board, and there's a lot going on.
Don't have enough room over there in your offices, or you need more room?
We need more room. We have all the offices filled up, and we basically have no storage. We're not doing supervised visitation, so that's become a storage room of sorts for things. And if expanded Medicaid comes, then we're going to need the space. So I've been pursuing different avenues for that. Our building is currently owned by Bill Blevins, but the hospital has an empty building next door, and I've reached out to them and talked to them about possibly leasing that building if need be.
Me. Other questions, comments?
I just want to say what's obvious. The number of lives that Lisa and her team touch each and every day is just, can't contemplate that. The way that they do that and the way that they handle these situations, is truly remarkable. And just want to acknowledge her and her team for doing that, and what a great service they provide here in Alleghany. So.
Just one comment, especially about the foster care for children. We're, 58 is what we handled this past year.
Correct.
I remember 3, 4, 5 years ago, we were down 11 or 12, but it just keeps climbing every year, and it's something that's hard for you to budget because you don't have any idea how many people are going to come under that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a major challenge.
Yes.
But I thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Next, we're down to just a few left. Eric, soil and water.
Board. I'm Eric Hamilton with the Soil and Water Conservation District. My department, like a lot of departments, we've had some turnover. We've had 2 different employees this year. We just hired a new young lady, Miss Chelsea Bobbitt. She started back September 20th. She has a 2-year degree in animal science. She's working towards her 4-year degree going through A&T. October, we finally got to hold our county environthon again. It's the 14th one, annual one. It hadn't been held since 2019. We had 125 students from the 3 elementary schools and the high school. Had 20 volunteers, had several that are in this room, helped volunteer with it. They also come from Ashe, Watauga, Wilkes, Yadkin, Alleghany, or Alexander County. Out of those 125 students, there were roughly 3 to 5 students per team. We are going to be sending 8 of those teams to the area environthon in March, which is down in Wilkes County. It's called the Northwest Environthon. We've got 55 entries from all 4 of the schools for our contest entries. We do posters 3rd through 5th grade, do essays for 6th through 8th grade. Speech contest is 7th and 8th grade, and then we do a computer-generated slideshow, which is 9th through 12th. We'll be judging those in January, and then the winners from each grade will get to move on to the area environthon as well. Not the environthon, but the area contest competition. That'll happen in March, and that'll be down in Burke County. Chelsea, she's only been there 3 months. She's already started her certification for environmental educator. She'll be doing a lot of different workshops to get all her hours in. That takes a little over almost 200 hours or a little more to get that certification. She's only been here 3 months. She's already been into all the schools, doing something with everything from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. She's done a couple of soil classes and everything. On the technical side, we do cost share that comes through the state. Alleghany was awarded a little over $77,000 this year. We've encumbered about $66,000 of that so far. We've also have a new program called STRAP, Streamflow Rehabilitation Assistance Program. Alleghany, we were awarded $247,200 for stream debris removal. We have
We've got 7 applicants. We've contracted with 3 of them so far, getting bids on some more. We've actually got 1 project completed. Got it completed in the last couple of weeks. Those contracts will be going on all the way up through next year, and the program officially ends in 2024. Veterans Park. I know the 2 new commissioners, you don't know a whole lot about it probably. We have gotten it fully funded for a stream restoration on it. We're looking at, right now, we're looking at anticipated start date of January. It's fully funded. We're waiting on the final design and a few permits. We partnered with a couple of different funding pools, and that's kind of the holdup on the permits, and final design on that is pleasing everybody on those. We also partner with the NRCS doing the EQIP program. That's federal funds. This past year we completed 2 stream restoration projects totaling up around 3,000 linear feet of stream and a cost of roughly around probably $500,000. We've also applied for a grant for a boom sprayer. That's something that we'll be renting out to citizens. It's going to have probably be something like a 30-foot boom sprayer along with a retractable spray wand on it, do like fence lines. We won't hear anything on that probably until September, October though. Happy to answer any questions.
We found out this year that our wetlands mapping was out of date by 5 years. Are we updating that?
That is not up to me, but yes, that's something we're going to be working on. Be working with emergency management and other folks on that.
Thank you.
Bill? Craig? Comments, Mr. Carter?
Oil and water is similar in some of the components as to the extension. They too impact small children right on up to adults, which Eric has identified. And over the last couple of years under his leadership, I know he's had some transition there, but he's certainly got some innovative thoughts. I think he demonstrated that, taking a step, looking possibly at a sprayer to include to allow for some additional usage. But thoughts on other things that I'm sure he'll bring out at some point that he and I have talked about. But I really appreciate what he does, and the value that office brings to the communities is something to think about, because you talk about a stream restoration, or you talk about fencing cattle out of a stream, what that does. Those are huge contributions that don't always get identified, but they're beneficial not only to us as consumers, but to the animals and everything that works downstream from it. So I just, he's always cooperative. He's always at attention. I enjoy working with Eric, and I think he and Chelsea, from what I think, they make a great team. So,
Thank you. I know that I've been fortunate to use soil and water for years and years, and I think what Mr. Carter just said about stream restorations is extremely important. I wasn't a fan of it in the beginning, but I've seen what it does, how it protects the soil, how it protects the land, and if we don't have clean water, we're in trouble. And if we just keep the beavers out of there, we're in better shape. But I appreciate the work that you all have done on the beaver project. I think you've got a couple more in the county, maybe, but it was an interesting education to go through how to eradicate beavers, and I think you all did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
We're coming down the home stretch. Tax Office, Rita Miller.
Afternoon. For our annual report, your Alleghany County Tax Office appraises real estate and personal property within the county, as well as generating and collecting your annual tax bills. and also administers various programs as required by the statutes of the state of North Carolina. So I'm going to break down our departments a little bit here for you this morning or afternoon. The assessment department assesses value for about 15,000 parcels, or 133,250 calculated acres in the county. This year, there were 350 parcels that were visited to pick up new construction or other improvements, which resulted in an increase of tax value of about $36 million. Business personal property includes computer and office equipment, machinery equipment, farm equipment, supplies, materials, and any leasehold improvements that a commercial building may have going on. There were 932 business abstracts processed in 2022. Individual personal property listings include unlicensed automobiles, trucks, trailers, campers, motorcycles, boats, any mobile homes that don't meet the definition of real estate as per the general statutes, and vehicles that may have multi-year permanent tags. There were 1,615 individual abstracts processed in 2022. The net value of all the personal property located within the county is $1,811,555,000. That's processed by one person. That one person has given me their intent to retire in October. So I'm going to be looking for maybe some extra training time come budget. Just throwing that out there for you. Other programs administered in the assessment department are your exemption and exclusion programs. That's going to be elderly, disabled, veterans, governmental, religious, and educational properties, which are reviewed and new applications processed each year. As Mary and Miranda talked about, real property transfer splits and combinations are processed in the tax office for your tax bills. Present use value, or farm use value, as many people call it, audits and rollbacks are performed. This year, Theresa had identified 1,757 parcels that qualify for some type of farm use. There were 13 new applications, 8 disqualifications, and 500 parcels reviewed to make sure that they're still qualified for the program. Also in assessment, mobile home park and campground reports are sent out each year and reviewed, and the state requires 1/8 of all businesses be reviewed annually. Solid waste fees, your residential solid waste fee, is also administered by the assessment department, and in 2022 there were 8,140 solid waste fees billed. This department consists of 1 real property appraiser, 1 personal property appraiser, and myself. The next part of our office is the collections department, which is responsible for the collection of county property tax, fire tax, interest, penalties, and any fees. They also complete tax certification forms, and this is a form that the tax collector does a 10-year search on property taxes to make sure there's no delinquent tax on any piece of property getting ready to have ownership transferred. And this year they have completed 1,275 tax certifications as of last week. They also do daily and monthly reconciliation of all monies received, whether by cash, check, card, or e-check, and review and reconcile refunds and releases each month before I bring that information to the board. The North Carolina vehicle tax system is the processing of motor vehicle values, which then get billed by North Carolina Department of Transportation, or tag renewals, processing vehicle gap bills, refunds, adjustment, and all of those on a monthly basis. One of the biggest things is our delinquent tax collections. We utilize most all of the remedies prescribed by the general statute, including attachment of income tax refunds or lottery winnings, which the state refers to as the debt set-off program. We do attachment of bank accounts, garnishment of wages, administration of payment agreements, and attachments to funds held by the state treasurer, which is called the NC Cash program, and foreclosure of property if all other attempts are unsuccessful. In 2022, we tried 2 new forms of collecting on delinquent taxes. We did a delinquent call tax program. That was not successful. The time it took to make the calls, leave messages, return calls, just took significantly more time than the amount of tax we actually collected. We had a posted property program, which I learned of other counties doing at Fall Conference last year. So for properties that are delinquent and we haven't been able to contact the property owner or get some kind of payment agreement set up, I post the property, I post a pre-foreclosure notice on the property. And then the property owner can contact us, we can enter into a payment agreement, or if we can't come up with terms or don't get contacted, then we review those to see if they're viable for submission to the Kenya law firm who handles our tax foreclosures. There were 4 properties foreclosed upon in 2022 by Kenya law firm, and they currently have 22 properties that they're working with now, either through a payment agreement with them or in some part of the foreclosure process. We accept payments in the form of cash, check, card, and e-checks. Payments are taken counter, by mail. We have a drop box outside, online, or by phone. The number of taxpayers paying by card continues to increase each year. The fee doesn't seem to matter. And in 2022, we were able to offer IVR, or interactive voice response payments by phone. That's been a big time saver for our collection staff, and that was through our new card provider, Auto Agent. The tax collection department consists of a deputy tax collector, an assistant tax collector, and myself. The assistant tax collector provides backup to the tag office in emergency situations, and then your LPA supervisor can provide backup to tax collections in emergency situations. And so we do have that happen from time to time for sickness and other things. This time last year, when I was doing employee evaluation, I challenged each person for cross-training in our office. So cross-training goals that we were able to do this year were in deed transfers, gap vehicle billing, deferred tax billing, the daily tax collection reconciliation process, and then someone other than myself trained in doing the finance software, our invoices or timesheets. So we're always looking for ways to improve and how we can serve our citizens. That's really what it's all about, serving our citizens while doing so under the state statutes. And 2 words that stick out all through our statutes are fair and equitable. And we strive to remember that that's our duty to do that, to set forth, do the requirements in a fair and equitable manner. So I wanted to give you an update on the tag office because I rarely ever give you any information on that. So I asked Candace to just give me a brief synopsis of what's going on in the tag office. So we're quickly approaching 4 years of the county having the contract to operate the tag office. The first year, 2019, we collected about $1.7 million, and that's registration fees, tax, everything. That's the amount of money that ran through the department. And as of November the 30th, 2022, it's over $2 million for this year already. She does an average of 600 transactions per week and servicing thousands of people per month. The office is steadily becoming busier and busier. We not only serve the citizens of Alleghany County, but have had a steady increase in the number of people who are driving here from surrounding places. Because we have shorter wait times and friendlier customer service, they're choosing to make that drive. Even with the busier, more hectic days, we still offer the best in customer service and try our best to go above and beyond to help anyone who walks in the door. A few statistics on that. We have 1 full-time employee, that's Candace, and we have the shared employee, which is our new tax, tag, and finance support specialist. And unfortunately, we've not been able to keep anybody in that because they moved to a full-time, county position. Both have been financed thus far, but once fully trained, only 1/3 of their time will be spent in the tag office. In 2020, the monthly average transaction was 1,238, and in 2022, we're averaging 2,772 transactions in a month's time. And the county's average compensation from DOT is $4,500. That's the average for this year. Your tag office is audited once a month by a state DOT auditor. So that's not included in your county audit report. That's because we're a state contractor. We get audited once a month by a state auditor. So be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Know that, I'll get Mr. Carter in a second, that one of the big benefits, I think, was the tag office moving to this county office building. People seem very pleased. They know when it's open, when it's closed. I think that's been a big asset to the county to move to this building. Michael, some questions and comments?
Just a comment. To follow what Rita has said, she does an excellent job in her role in leading that department. And her team that is there, I know she mentioned that one's already gave her a notice, and you know, that's some time off, but yet it's some time to prepare. So we're certainly encouraging and supporting with that. That office, and Rita in particular, since I've been here, have always been responsive. They're community-minded. They don't try to, you know, run ragged over whomever. They're community-minded in what they do, and above beyond, they're professional, and I think that's clearly demonstrated. Great working bunch. You know, the unfortunates of that office is the logistics of it. If that office was actually closer to the main entrance, we wouldn't have near the foot traffic in this building, because most of the people who come in go to that office. So if and ever we ever decide to reconfigure, you know, consideration ought to be given to cut down foot traffic with the location of that office, and we've had that discussion as well. But to sum it up, I'll use the two words she said that statutes recommend or identify. She and her team are certainly fair and equitable. So I think it's, you know, a very good demonstration here in the county.
Thank you very much. I have
Thank you.
excellent staff, so thank you so much.
And I see Marge is not here. So if we could have a 10-minute recess for a restroom break, we'll come back, I don't know. We'll come back at 12:35. To general business. General business, there are 6 items listed, and I believe that 4 of them possibly will require a vote. And then we'll go through all of them. The first one will be the DCI agreement with Daniel Roten.
I said good morning this morning, now I can say good afternoon. So I think the 3 of you guys recall on this side of the table that we had to develop an agreement between our new communications center and the sheriff's office and with our police department to be able to run DCI for those guys. In the past, and this is for Timmy and Greg's information, in the past, dispatch was under sheriff's control. They were sheriff's office employees running tags for sheriff deputies, so there was no agreement needed. But now that we're splitting that out, the SBI, who administers DCI, actually requires us to have an agreement in place that will use their originating number to do things for them in the system and so forth and so on. Well, I guess it was, about a month ago, the previous board approved the agreement that we had developed between our new communications center and the sheriff's office, which stipulated what we would do for them at the times of day we would do it, and then the things we would not do for them. Likewise, a similar agreement has been developed with the Sparta Police Department. Now, their agreement is a little less specific, because in the past, Comm Center has pretty much done all the DCI entry for Sparta Police Department. It's just it's not the answer. It's the answer that Mr. Carter hates, but it's the way it's always been. But that's the way it was. And so they don't even have their own terminal at the police department to be able to do these things with. The previous agreement with the sheriff's office, we mentioned that from 8 to 5, the sheriff's office is going to be responsible for doing their own missing persons and domestic violence orders and some of those things, and our primary obligation to them during daytime would be to run tags and license checks. But with the police department, it's been my impression and my understanding we're going to continue to provide full service for them. So that's what this agreement would entail. It is based upon, 1, an SBI template, and 2, the previous agreement we had with the sheriff's office. There's a lot of similarities. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer those as best I can.
John, questions?
None.
Michelle, Greg, Timmy?
How much does they pay any toward the dispatch? Does the police department pay anything toward that?
My understanding, the town of Sparta pays us $50,000 last year to go towards the operation of 911 Center.
Did they do it when it was at the sheriff's department too?
Yes. I think it's my impression that that is some compensation for us providing that service for them.
Questions? Mr. Carter, you have any comments on this agreement?
All I'll say is if considered, I believe, Daniel, you mentioned we need to get the appropriate signatures today.
Yeah, I need to move on it pretty quick because once we make the formal transition to the county, we have to have these agreements in place to actually be able to provide that service. So if it is your pleasure as the board to approve this, then again, like I say, I'll need signatures on it by close of business today.
Have you got enough employees to run it right now?
We're getting there. It has been a bit challenging, but I think the sheriff's office actually has come up with some sort of stopgap measures with part-time help, not only just from here but from other counties as well. And then it's also my understanding that there's been some interviews taking place. So we're hopeful to get staff gradually up and running to where we need to be.
This agreement sort of a time-sensitive, need to get it done right away.
Yes, sir.
And I believe the Heather Klein there's a place for you to sign off on this, so you've gone through it and you feel comfortable with it. Any other questions or comments? This is an item that we need to vote on.
Motion to approve.
I would ask for a motion and a second.
He made a motion.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? That was John made it and Michelle seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, sir. The only thing I do want to ask real quick, and I guess this is more for you, Mr. Carter, is who needs to be the signatory for the Alleghany County Communications? Was the chairman on the previous agreement, so.
Fine.
Thank you.
The next item is item 2, hometown oil contract, page 7 through 8, and that would be Drew Todd.
I'll ask Lisa Osborne if you need to correct me, please do. From the time was bid, wanted just requirements on the require our hometown certification applied for process fuel.
You need to come to the podium.
The process in-house regarding the clients will still be the same. We will fax those over that are approved. However, they will have, Hometown or whomever will have to go into a portal, log in, and do certification, and it'll all be done electronically, payments. And so the state will issue those payments directly. We will still do the eligibility piece of it, and still fax over those things for them that are approved. However, they will have to do the certification and the training and do auto bank draft through this portal.
So that wasn't the this revised 30th, our fiscal year. So the process will stay, their bid would be that date. It's going to change.
So this agreement would have to be renegotiated?
No, they're willing to.
No, in
honor-
June.
Yes.
23rd.
Yes.
Yep.
They're willing to.
It's not renegotiated.
Well, rebid or whatever,
Yes.
rebid.
Yes.
Anything else? Just wait a minute. John, you got any questions? Michelle, Greg, and Timmy? Any comments, Mr. Carter? And Heather, you've been through this. For the new board members, almost any agreement, or should every agreement that we have, there's a place for Heather, for our general counsel, to sign off that she's looked at the agreement and it meets all of her standards and qualifications. And also our finance. Finance is into everything.
Do you need a motion?
Need a motion and a second.
I make.
Michelle motions,
I'll second it.
Greg seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, likewise, sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Lisa. Now we go to The reading of the Code of Ethics, that'll be Drew Todd, page 9 through 12. This item, as I understand it, will not need a vote. Go ahead.
As always remain as you do. Aware of the stand. Conduct is appropriate. The purpose of this lines for be considered or for all laws applicable to their official actions as members at the same time policy position board members did a real new or on the day-to-day with integrity as board members on their design only to a use conversation worthiness regardless of where independent all in a reason incorruptible self using contacts and issues that outside of public receiving it.
quasi-judicial, outside of the quasi-judicial. With respect. Reaching all sides have been recognizing the individual authorizes it. Due respect to board appointment. Members should in the act as a honor the public though opinions may what behavior action would member believe legal and responsible. Credible to engage outside of the meeting. Of the board with all applicable laws governing honor the spirit as an important responsibility. Also remember that in order to ensure compliance with rules concerning openness, justified to make
Thank you. Is there any comments on the reading of our ethics statement from John, Michelle, Fred, or Timmy? Thanks. Thank you for reading that, Drew. We'll go now to, and that does not require a vote. That was just for information. Dispatch moving from Sheriff's Department, Nick Hawks and Michael Carter will have this presentation. And this is another item that will not require a vote.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here to meet with this current new board. So yeah, me and I guess along with county manager need to update you guys on where we're at with the center and the transition of supervision from the sheriff's office over to county administration. So for, I guess, the new members to kind of get you up to speed on how we got to where we're at now, I'll give you just a little history. So we began a conversation with county administration and commissioners a couple of years ago about bringing the 911 center up to date by adding an emergency medical dispatch program. At that time, the state was beginning to require telecommunicators to hold an EMD certification.
county administration designated a group of county employees to sit on a communications center committee. During these committee discussions, it was recognized that to have an effective EMD program, it would require staffing the center with a minimum of two telecommunicators per shift. Due to the lack of space within the sheriff's office, the committee also seen a need to move the center to accommodate for at least 2 workstations and have additional space for potential expansion. A site location was agreed upon, and commissioners gave consent to proceed with writing a grant through the State 911 Board. After nearly a year and a half of planning and construction, this project is very close to completion, estimated next month, sometime early to mid next month. In anticipation of project completion, several months ago, we began a hiring campaign using social media and job sites to recruit, but we have had difficulties finding, hiring, and retaining applicants for the telecommunicator position. Like most other industries nowadays, the applicant pools are much smaller, which limits hiring options. Also, beginning earlier this year, the state of North Carolina, through Training and Standards Commission, changed the hiring process for personnel within our office. This new process takes longer to complete and has both disqualified or discouraged potential applicants. As far as retention, this position, like many other public safety and first responder positions, carry a lot of stress and pressure, which contributes to burnout and causes many trainees to quit during the training process or shortly after completing the training and going on a shift. At this time, there are approximately 4 full-time dispatchers, 1 onboarding to make 5. 5 part-time dispatchers, a transferred position from the 511 budget over to the 510 budget, who is fully trained and that have been assisting with covering all these shifts. We also have some Ashe County dispatchers that have came over and signed up as part-time employees to work, but only on a temporary basis. So due to the anticipated completion of the center and the extended time to process potential applicants through our hiring procedures, we have had meetings recently with the county manager and assistant county manager to discuss the logistics of transferring control of the center to the county so selected applicants can be onboarded faster and begin training sooner. We anticipated looking at that move January 1st. Or thereabouts.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Nick has said, I alluded to it earlier. April and I actually participated in interviews last week, and I don't want to say the exact number, but I think since we have made an announcement of this, I think we have received double-digit interest applications. We went through some interviews. We've still got some additional ones to go through, but I think the interest is there. I think we'll be able to expand on the current workforce that we have there and those individuals. And, you know, as Nick alluded to, the center, I think Daniel has also made comments, we're very close on the center. So this is more or less, we can't change the physical location until we can change the physical location. But we are assuming the oversight of those individuals beginning the 1st of January. And as I mentioned earlier, Daniel will have that within his abilities. But you know, we certainly want to have everything complete, ready, and go. I think everyone has been in the center and seen the upgrades and changes that we're making. I think it's a very good center. We're excited to have those guys and gals come down and be a part of the team. I know that the Sheriff's Department will continue to work with us in collaborative efforts to help us as we need it, but it's a move we're all looking forward to, and I think we're ready for that. So,
Thank you. Any questions, John, comments, Michelle? Greg? Tim, go ahead.
First thing is, can you hear me now?
Yeah, they got you.
Good. I guess because we're on the back end of some of this, Michael has actually tried to bring us up to date a little bit. So this dispatch deal is going to be the Sheriff's Department paying for it now, which they may start with, I don't know. This will be a county thing, that we'll have a new department or?
Not necessarily a new department. The budget has it, I mean, the county has
Already
done that. It was just an assignment to the sheriff's department. So
I see.
the funding mechanism will
It's just-
change. It has a place in the budget. It has an identified position in the budget. That will remain the same. The only difference in it will be the oversight, which will go away from the sheriff's department and to the county.
So, guess who's oversight of that now? We will have somebody.
Daniel Roden will be
So
the one oversight.
Daniel will be it, okay. Just my question. Been kind of looking over that budget since July 1st anyway. He's been kind of managing that budget. So any bills that came in, we would forward them down since July. County hiring people, looking in the, hiring for that?
Yes, for the remaining positions, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. Then we'll move to item 5, DSS pay grade changes. That'd be April Ham.
Probably with Lisa's assistance, so good afternoon.
And Lisa.
In your packet, you had a copy, and we don't have everything up now. You had a copy of what our current pay grades are now, and it's just grades, but there is a hiring rate and a maximum rate with each grade, and the positions that fall within those grades. On page 2, I have highlighted in yellow where our current social worker staff and supervisors fall within our current pay grade that was approved back in July, when some adjustments was done to everybody's salaries during the budget. In green to the right is actually what the State Office of Human Resources is requiring. They guide social services in some things, and they require social services in some things. And Lisa received an email a couple of months ago wanting a copy of the current pay grades for Alleghany County so they could view that with social services positions, and specifically the social workers, correct, Lisa? Okay. And we need to do some adjustments to what we currently have in place. The yellow is what we currently have in place. The green is our suggestion and the state's suggestion to fix what the State Office of Human Resources would like fixed. The trainee is not going to change at all. The social worker 1 is actually going to go down in our pay grade, our approved pay grades as it is now. Now, it's not going to affect any current employees. The only thing it would affect, if Lisa had a social worker 1 that left right now and we had somebody come in as a new hire, they would be starting at a less amount than her current staff. But that is not going to change anything with the current staff that she has now. Everything else is going to have to be shifted up because of the way the pay grade is with the state level. And they take into account what's happening across the state with social workers is why this is happening. Now, to do this, it is going to affect, I believe it's 5 or 6 social worker positions that we currently have, because we do need to adjust their salaries to what the state is requiring / suggesting that we need to do. What questions, do you need some more explanation from me, or what questions do you have for myself and or Lisa?
Questions, John, Michelle, Greg?
Do we need to discuss pay out here in public, or do we need to go to executive session?
Timmy?
I don't know.
Michael, you have some comments. How's this going to affect our current budget?
Want me to answer that? Okay. There's actually, it's 5 or 6 that will be adjusted, and the total amount of the adjustment is around $24,700. Now, that is available in DSS's budget because Lisa has been down 5 employees starting this fiscal year. Now, currently, she's only down 1, correct? So the difference in that approved budget from July 1 till full staff, there is about $49,000 available there. So it's not going to affect our current year budget with social services.
They
State,
do that quite often.
the State Office of Human Resources, and Lisa has emails and other information if you would like to hear from Lisa.
Go ahead.
Maybe a quick understanding of the reimbursements the state provide for those positions would help some of those questions.
Most all of our staff and our social work staff salaries gets reimbursed approximately 60%. Some of our Medicaid staff is 75%, and our food nutrition is 75%. But our social work staff gets reimbursed it averages about 60%. And the state is requiring a 4 pay grade difference between a 1 and a 2. And so that's where the problem is. And so in order to fix it, you have to adjust all the others.
Comments, Mr. Carter?
I think it's obvious that no one likes to be in this situation, but the situation we're in, and there are requirements that accompany that.
You said April said there was.
Yeah, try it again.
So you said there was money already appropriated for, that would cover that, correct?
We do.
Okay.
There is money available to cover what the state is requiring.
Any other questions?
Let me just make it clear, in the current budget. So in the
Yes.
upcoming budget, these changes will have to be implemented additionally.
Correct.
So
How much are we looking at total, did you say?
24,700 is all the adjustments that we would have to do. She does have about 49,000 available in that salary line in the budget because of turnover and unable to fill those spots.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
This is an item that's going to require a vote.
You just got a motion and a second.
I was going to say that we hadn't had a lot of time to review this thing, but this is an item that's on the agenda for vote, so we'll need a motion and a second.
We done got one.
Got it? Taken. All those, any other questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. Aye. Opposed, likewise. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, 90 South Main Street. This is from Michael Carter.
For some time now, we have been talking about the demolition of the front portion of 90 South Main and the reconstruction of an entranceway back into it. Today, we're here to actually go through the bid. I think I mentioned at the last and probably the last 2 meetings about the opportunity to go back and communicate with the contractor to see if there were any cost savings that we could identify. As you recall, the bids that we received, we got those on November the 10th. The base bid was from J.G. Coram and the base bill was $923,700. That's, if you go back in time, that's about twice of what we thought the engineering estimate was back a year and a half ago. So that prompted our architect, which is R&D Architects. We actually had an internal committee that consisted of David Spicer, Travis Dalton, Drew, and myself. We were on the call. Dana Phillips was on the call at the Office of State Budget. And we all talked about this. And R&D actually communicated. They have come up with what I would call a credit. There are 3 items that can be revised, and they include the zinc panel dimensions that basically goes from this width to that width. The length of the canopy we're talking about, we're going to shorten that by 9.5 feet, and we're going to take the LED signage letters out but leave the letters themselves but not have them LED backlit. I sent an email out to the board from our architect, but there's a mistake. If you go down, he talks about a savings of $49,700. That's incorrect. The savings is $58,700 if you add those 3 together. So that actually lowers the base bid from the original $923,700 down to $865,000. Now, any project whatsoever, there needs to be a contingency line in there because of things that may or may not develop. We had conversation about that last week, and the emphasis was placed on making the award, including a 5% contingency, which would drive that price up to $908,250. Now, in doing that, the contingency is not a given. So the architect has to approve it, the board has to approve it. These are approved contingencies, not just general within the conditions. So today, my hope that we can do 2 things. One is to approve the $908,250 as the award, which includes the contingency. And 2, I think early this morning I got the agreement basically about 12:30 last night, so I went ahead and forwarded that out. And I'll defer to Heather on her comments about the agreement. But my goal today is to hopefully get an approval of the award amount and the ability to proceed with the contract pending our legal review and comments so that we can stay on track and begin the demolition portion of this project in January. So I'll defer to Heather for that portion.
I think there was only one question, and that question was surrounding whether or not arbitration is legal in North Carolina, and of course it is. So excuse me, it depends on what you put in your contract. So that's a pretty standard paragraph or 2 or 3, depending on how detailed they wanted to be about it. So the contract was one that we had already received probably about 2 months ago. It says sample across it. The difference in this one was that the terms were actually filled in with the number of days for completion. Some of the monetary things that had been missing were included. And then there was a question about the arbitration. And that, I sent an email back out to everyone on the board just to say that that's legal in North Carolina. There's not an issue with that being a problem for us. Otherwise, I didn't see anything in that contract that jumped out as a problem. Obviously, taking into consideration the values and the amounts that were different from what that original bid was going to be and then what it came back with. So, and that's for the board to determine whether they want to continue. But otherwise, on the legal end, there's nothing in there that was out of order, especially considering that we had seen it about 2 months ago, except for the fact that they've added in the terms now.
And as a final note, initially, in consideration of this agreement, I actually did a grant amendment with the state of North Carolina and finished that prior to coming in here this morning. So the question about funding and who's going to cover the cost, and the state is on board with that. and that will be included in our grant amendment.
I just got one question. I was trying to look up the agreement that you sent this morning. Now, go back and go through this arbitration again if we have to have it. This is all a North Carolina company, or is it, why are we discussing the arbitration so much?
Because when we got that copy, it actually had a question from, I think, I can't remember if it was architecture or if it was actually the contractor. Contractor had put in there a question mark that they were not sure that arbitration was available in North Carolina. I guess somebody had mentioned to them that maybe it wasn't legal here, and it is. So there's not a problem with that. I think they were concerned and they were questioning whether they could put it in the contract.
I was just remembering back to another contract we had with a Virginia company, and that arbitration we would have had to go to court up in Arlington, Virginia, instead of someplace local. So
This one's not
yeah.
mentioning that, and we do get contracts pretty frequently where it might be another county or something, and that's a negotiating factor for us. Because, of course, we don't want to have to go to another county or state to have to do any kind of litigation or negotiations in regards to a breach of contract or any issues we have with our contracts. So, but that was a question that the contractor had, and it's not a problem for us. Typically, contracts will have an arbitration or a mediation clause in them, which would be so that if you had an issue with the contract between either party, that you agree that you're not going to immediately sue each other. You're going to try to negotiate or figure out a resolution to any of the problems that you have. So it's a nice clause to have in there so that you're not immediately suing each other.
Thank you. The questions, John?
The only question that I have for the county manager is, in accordance with General Statute 143.131, do you have any doubts in the ability of the low bidder to perform the contract, sir?
Yes, sir. And the reason I say that is I have spoken with others who have used this same contractor in the past, and I have had nothing but positive remarks.
For the benefit of the new members of the committee, under the North Carolina General Statute 143.131, this board must accept the low bidder unless we have doubts that they can perform.
Michelle, any questions? Greg?
What is this, earthquake damage?
Yes.
So we didn't get no earthquake money for the building, or we did?
That's what this is.
Okay.
We received an original amount based on the estimate. The amendment now allows us to complete this.
Yes, I guess probably because I've been involved with a lot of these construction contracts, but we're on the back end of it, so I didn't see this until 6 o'clock this morning. I'm like, okay. Personally, I don't think I have enough time to look through it, but I know y'all been through all this. It's took forever, and I'm sure. And I'm sure everything's legit. I guess my reservations would be a decision. I don't know if I've had enough time to do all that stuff. I don't think it's probably anything's going to change about the decision. I know you said that it's all going to be taken care of fund-wise. And I know we have legal backup to look through all that stuff, and it's all good, but it's my like. I mean, everything seems to be legit, and yes, Jay Corum, he's legit. Their company's legit. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with that either. But I guess I'll have to defer to the ones that's been involved with this for a while, because I know this has been an ongoing thing ever since the earthquake, hasn't it? And I don't want to put any monkey wrench in the cogs for that. That was my only concern, I guess.
Thank you. This has been an ongoing ongoing project for quite a while now. We've been through it. I'd like, Timmy, I don't like a lot of information thrown on me at the last minute. I like to be able to look through it, but the former board has been through a lot of it. The legal has, and Michael has. I feel very comfortable with the agreement. I feel comfortable with Michael's recommendation for the company. I know they've been very helpful working. They've answered questions. We've had quite a few meetings with them. But I'd like a program that comes to me, and at least I've had 1 or 2 weeks to look at it, to ask questions about it. But this, we have 2 new board members. We got 3 seasoned board members, and I think the administration is behind it. And this is a time-sensitive issue that Mr. Carter wants, so we can get started.
I do have one more question. You said that the state, we have to pay for this as we go, and the state reimburses. So how does that work?
With the grant amendment, we have the ability to ask the state to front a portion of it, which will get us into the ability to pay and receive those monies back in time to make the next payments. It's a logistics thing.
Any other questions or discussions? This is an item that requires a vote. I would need a motion and a second to approve this.
We'll make that motion in regards to General Statute 143.131 for formal bids, that we accept the low bid.
Thank you, and Michelle made the second on that. Is there any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, the same. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. We would need a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed unless a commissioner has any questions about any item on the consent agenda. That can be pulled out and discussed. If there's no questions, then we would approve the consent agenda as submitted. Any questions on the consent? I would ask.
Motion to approve consent.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, John and Michelle. Any other discussion about the consent agenda? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed, the same. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Rita. Okay, now we go to county manager's comments.
First one is the November building inspection reports included in your packet. I would encourage everyone to review that. The second, I think we alluded to it earlier, talking about the Recreation Committee. I think that in anticipation of trying to go into more detail about the possibility of a swimming pool, our Recreation Committee needs to look at their calendars, and I would recommend having a meeting sometime within the next 2 weeks, if that would be possible.
I would like to meet
This week? Yes. Are you here this week?
Wednesday.
Wednesday afternoon, good with you? 4 o'clock? Yeah, that works for me. What time?
4.
4 o'clock Wednesday in your office if you get a hold of the other members. We'll go for the 21st, 4 o'clock. Thank you.
And the next item is, and I think this was also mentioned, but you have a courthouse committee, and I think that consists of Commissioner Bobby and Timmy. You've worked under that premise, but we also have other buildings and grounds that, you know, I think would benefit from having discussions about. So my proposal, or something to consider, possibly is to expand the courthouse committee into just a general building and grounds committee so that we can address not only the courthouse but other facilities that may arise and deem, of act.
I think with the budget time coming up, it's an excellent idea. I think Timmy and I being on that committee, and Timmy bringing his expertise in construction, I think that would be a fine idea, and with David Spicer helping us. We've got a lot of buildings and a lot of grounds that need our attention, so I would fully support that.
Yeah, I'm good with
All I have, Mr. Chair.
That's all.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and ask Heather if you got any comments. Drew's not here, but do you have any additional comments?
No, other than say Merry Christmas.
Thank you. On commissioner comments.
Yes, I'd like to welcome our two new commissioners. I'm sorry I wasn't able to make the last meeting, but I was under some heavy medication for pain management, and it was best that I stayed where I was and on my back. One of the things that you have basically received today is an indication of where this county stands. I think it's an eye-opener whenever Department of Social Services tells you that they have a budget of $27 million. That is 50% above the county budget. Fortunately, we get a lot of money from the federal government for that, and it helps us out. But still, it's an indication of where this county is right now. 18% income is below poverty line. 28% is above 65, if I read it correctly. I've been using the figure of 38%, so I will correct myself on that. 28%, 65 and older, which means that we're living on fixed income. Just to give you an idea of where that is, the food nutrition supplement is 5% above last year. Medicaid is 5% above last year. And just to give you a canary in the coal mine where we are, 2 weeks ago, as of tomorrow, the food closet set a record. 62 families in one day. Their norm is 20 to 30, depending on the year. Last week, every day that the food closet was open, they had in excess of 50 families a day. They're hurting. This also is being impacted because Second Harvest simply cannot provide what they were at one time because of the needs that are being identified across the state of North Carolina. This is something we're going to have to look at whenever we start in our, whenever you start in your budget discussions, because of, especially whenever you take into consideration 28% are fixed income over 65 in this county. And that is a large portion of the property owners in this county. It's going to affect us, really. So, welcome. I know that you're sitting there like I am, thinking that you're drinking from a fire hose. It's coming at you. But the information is available. Look at it. And hopefully you can make your decisions based on facts and not emotion, because unfortunately, government has not much emotion in it. Welcome aboard again. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and safe travels during this holiday season.
Thank you. Michelle?
I'd just like to say that I'm very impressed with your staff, our staff. They are people. I also think that it's very commendable to you and leadership, our local people, because I think that we have a wealth of knowledge and expertise under. There's something to be said for being culturally sensitive, and very impressed. I know you've had some turnover, but everybody in the world has had turnover, so I think it's
Greg?
John's right on the food closet, but people out here in the community is hurting. Kerosene, $7 a gallon. You know, we need to look at stuff like that. Housing. A lot of people can't afford the house. I had a guy call me, lived in the county last week, said him and his son was sleeping in a car. But, we need to look at other stuff, and we can help the people out in the community. Merry Christmas, and y'all have a good Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you the first of the year.
Thank you. Timmy?
Just want to thank how everyone's been so welcoming. Thank John for the welcome there, but also I want to thank Michael for help, and Drew, and anybody that I've had any questions for the last few days, trying to get us up to date with stuff. Look forward to moving forward with a lot of these different things, and South Main, watch come. I remember going there when I was a kid in the funeral home, So, I just want to thank everybody for being so helpful, and look forward for moving forward and trying to put together some good information and good facts, and try to just do everything that we can to help the county in the best way we can. And did want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Hope everybody has a really fun holidays, and last but not least, to remember what the holiday is supposed to mean at Christmas time. So, thanks.
Thank you. I've got just a couple quick things. One of them is a discussion about the agenda and how we formulate that agenda. I would like a consensus from the board to look at ways to make it a little bit clearer as to what items that we're voting on, instead of having a hodgepodge of this item's voted on under general business, this item is not. I've talked to Mr. Carter and to Drew. I think it just needs a little bit of tweaking. I'd like to get information, and I think it was shared today, that if we could get information maybe one meeting and possibly vote on it the next meeting, that gives us a chance to sit back and ask questions about what we're voting on. It would be no big change to this agenda the way it is. It would be just tweaking it a little bit, and with your consent, I would like to be able to work with Drew and Michael as to just fine-tuning his agenda a little. Is there any opposition to that? If not, I would take that as a yes for Greg. Is that okay with you? I would take that as a yes, that over the next few weeks we'll try to work on the agenda a little. I would also like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. The children are going to be out of school soon, so watch the roads. Keep an eye out for them. The weather is going to change drastically, it looks like Friday. So if you've got groups of people that you check on, especially the elderly, be sure you double check on them with this cold snap coming through. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. I thank the board for today. It's been a long day, but I think it's been very informative to all of us, plus our new members. Michael, do you have any last words? If not, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.